the national anthem, please? May we be all upstanding.
The first answer. Only the first answer. Only the first answer.
First and third.
Is the continuous. Just cloud. Okay, don't put them. Maybe you should put them. You have put them side by side.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for yourselves. So I make welcome again to this year's annual Feast of Barracuda on the theme, Thriving Beyond Hardship, Unlocking Nigeria's Resources for Financial Stability and Economic Empowerment. So we'll move on with some recognition. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Area Mate 9 of the National Association of CDOCs. In the person of Mr. Obina, please, can we take a bow? Thank you. Also would like to recognize some of the dignitaries that are here. Do we have Dr. Emeka Obegulu? That's it. Okay. Is he here? Permit me to recognize some of the speakers for this event. Join me welcome Professor Adesoji Adesuga, who is the main speaker for this event and is the first Deputy President, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You're welcome, Prof. I will take some more recognition as the names come to me. Just to say a very big welcome to all the very important guests, all the very senior members of the National Association of CDOCs Pirates Confraternity, and our wonderful guests that are here today to grace this occasion. You're all welcome, and we'll get more into the program in very short while. Thank you very much. So like I said, we'll take some more recognitions, and I want to, at this point, especially recognize the nurse couple. I understand he'll be joining us shortly, but just to introduce the nurse couple, Dr. Joseph Otere. It's a round of applause for him.
Okay.
Also, permit me to recognize the Sahara deck, Mr. Chike Onya. Please, a round of applause for him. His fellow Stera from ZUMA deck is Mr. Linus Igwe. Please, a round of applause for him. And also in this event is Dr. Chukwuemeka Jideani, from the Director General, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Is he in the hall? Okay, when he comes in, we'll recognize him again. Let me specially recognize and welcome our own dear friend and one of the discussants. She's been very, she has participated in a number of our events. Let me recognize no other person than Comrade Ene Obi. You're welcome, man. Comrade Ene Obi is the former country director of ActionAid Nigeria, and she's here also as one of the discussants. Let's welcome some of the guests that are joining us. You're welcome, sir. Please take your seat. Take your seat. Let me also recognize this beautiful lady, Dr. Tinuke Temitope. You're welcome. Dr. Temitope is the Director of Business, Entrepreneurship, Skills and Technology Center, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You're welcome, man.
Just project the materials. Then I will share when they don't start. I will share with all these.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me again to welcome Dr. Ishiaku, Dr. Aminu Ishiaku. Dr. Aminu Ishiaku is head of Department Geology and Mining, University of Abuja. You're welcome, Doctor. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know that we are live right now on the internet. We are on YouTube, and we're also on Zoom. And talking about Zoom, we do have some online participants. One of our distinguished discussants is online on Zoom. He has joined us. He's been here for quite some time. He kept very religiously to time. And I want to, at this point, recognize Dr. Joe Abba. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Joe Abba. Dr. Joe Abba is the country director of DAI Nigeria. You're welcome, Doctor, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for joining us. We're really delighted to have you in this event.
I think it's unmuted.
Let me quickly take some more introduction so that we can get our opening address queued up. Let me specially recognize and welcome Brigadier General Gabriel Achebo. A round of applause for the Brigadier General. You're welcome, sir. Brigadier General Achebo is the pioneer commander of the Nigerian Army Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Command, in Operation Hadindakai, the Northeast Nigeria. You're welcome, sir. Also, we want to recognize especially Mr. Olamide Oni. Mr. Olamide is the immediate past Cameroon of Sahara Day. Please take a bow for us. Let us quickly welcome Mr. Toyin Elegbede. Mr. Toyin is the former director, Office of the CDS, the presidency. And he is Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Economic Zone Association. Let's welcome Dr. Toyin. Also, a very big welcome to a very distinguished gentleman here. He is David Adeyo Andrew, OON. David Andrew is the former permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education and is the political and economic advisor, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. You're welcome, Mr. David Andrew. And then we'll have Mr. Gordon. Pardon me, I'm yet to get the handwriting. Let's welcome Gordon Promise, Deputy Director Principal, the FCT UBEC. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Gordon. Also with him is Mr. Samuel Williams Esquire. A very welcome, sir. He is the retired Deputy Director of Federal Ministry of Power. At the appropriate time, we'll take some more recognition. But at this point, do we have?
But just hide the screen. Yep. Hide the screen.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while we're still awaiting the arrival of the NAS Capone, who will take the opening address in this event, I'd like to continue with the rest of the proceedings. The first, we will get into goodwill messages. And just before then, we'd like to take the first poll. So we have a set of polls that we want to take that will sort of give an idea of the objective that we have set for this event. So let these polls be put on the screen. While that is going on, please can we have the area mate 9, Mr. Obina, prepared to take goodwill message. Are you ready with the poll? I understand that you need to scan the barcode in order to access the poll. So please do well to scan this barcode if you can see the projection on this screen. Please do well to scan this barcode and participate in the poll. While we're on that,
I send this material, I'll send that at once. So it's no danger. No, my I said, oh,
okay, while that is going on, may I have Mr. Obina, Area Mate 9, take his Goodwill message. A round of applause for him as he comes out here to present Goodwill message. Awareness Capone being expected. Awastera, ZUMA, Awastera, Sahara. Awareness medical private. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Obina is my name, and mine is the honor to welcome you to this 2025 Feast of Barracuda organized by ZUMA Tech and Sahara Tech. The Feast of Barracuda is an annual external event of the National Association of CDOTs. If you take the name literally, you may miss the essence of this event. The feast there is more of a food for thought, not the usual feast that we are all aware of. The Barracuda there is because the life of a pirate is likened to that of a sailor. And if you will agree with me that the Barracuda is a very big fish. A typical Barracuda is about 1.52 meters in length. If you convert that to feet, that's about 4.96 feet. I am about 5 feet 8. So if you imagine a fish that is taller than me, you can't consider it small. So we harvest ideas, big ideas for society so that they can implement. The theme of this year's Feast of Barracuda, I can see thriving, I can see hardship, I can see unlocking, I can also see resources. What it means is that there are potentials. That's why we say unlocking resources. Means that these resources are there, but the one in capital there is hardship. So why are we suffering in in all of these resources that we have? What we expect is that the distinguished ladies and gentlemen that are going to speak to us today will help the society, the government, plan better on how to unlock these potentials. In political science, or if you like, in philosophy generally, it is an established position that a potential actualized is more natural than the potential itself. So, in studying the relationship between actuality and potentiality, when a potential is actualized, it is considered complete. But because in Nigeria, we have not actualized our potential, we are still incomplete. And that's why there is hardship. So without much ado, I'm sure that everybody that is here is looking up to our guest speakers to help us give our leaders the idea that they need. When we say you are distinguished, we are not talking about being distinguished as those in the National Assembly. We hope that they will listen and they would take it further via legislation, via action. Let them actualize these potentials that you are going to help them unlock. Ladies and gentlemen, as we listen, may God help all of us. My boss just stepped in, so my responsibility ends now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Obinna, Area Mate 9. As you said, the NAS couple just stepped in. While we want to allow the NAS couple to take a breath, just say that the next Goodwill message will be taken by Dr. Emeka Obegulu, SAN. Yes, is he here? And then we'll have another Goodwill message presented by Dr. Tinuke. Hold on a minute.
Okay, you just
The series, ladies and gentlemen, just to announce that Dr. Tinuke Temitope is giving the Goodwill message on behalf of the Director General of the Abuja Chambers of Commerce and Industry. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. And I'm standing here on behalf of the President, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in person of Chief Emeka Obegulu, SAN, PhD. And I would like to say we are welcoming you to the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We are happy to host you. We are glad to have you in our premises. So the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry is a member-funded organization. We are established for the purpose of promoting businesses, for the purpose of supporting the growth of entrepreneurs and enterprises. And this is what we have done in the past 38 years of existence of the Chamber. The Chamber has over 2,000 members in our database. Then just to clarify that the Chamber is not a government organization. It is not also private organization. So the Chamber is owned by its members. So if you are a member of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, then you are a stakeholder. And if you are not yet a member, we want to use this opportunity to invite you to be a member of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. For us at the Chamber to support the growth of businesses, for us to meet with our objectives of establishment, we carry on our activities through 4 different centers. We have 4 different centers. We have the Abuja Trade Center. The Abuja Trade Center is the center in charge of trade fair. I'm sure those of us that are used to Abuja must have come to our premises for trade fair one point or the other. So the Abuja Trade Center is in charge of trade fairs, trade missions, B2B meetings. If there is need for you to go outside of the country to any other country to facilitate business, to facilitate relationship and networking, then the Abuja Trade Center is in charge of that. Then we have the Dispute Resolution Center. We have also identified that there can't be smooth relationship for a long time without some form of discord once in a while. So rather than going through litigation processes for businesses, the Chamber has a Dispute Resolution Center that is set up to mediate between disputed parties, so that at the end of the day, there could be a win-win situation for both parties in resolving their disputes. Then we have the Policy Advocacy Center, which is the center that advocates for policies that support the private sector, policies that support the growth of businesses in Nigeria. So the Policy Advocacy Center does a lot more of activities with the government as a mediating partner between the government and the private sector. Then we have the BEST Center. BEST is an acronym for Business, Entrepreneurship, Skills and Technology Center. The BEST Center was established for the purpose of capacity building. We have also identified that one of the challenges that hinders the growth of businesses among our members is lack of adequate capacity or lack of capacity at all. The fact that you have a business does not mean you have the capacity to run the business in all phase. So the BEST Center was established in the past 8 years, and that is what we have been doing to train businesses, business owners, employees to be able to meet up with the demand of the business. And at the end of the day, to increase the business activities and bring in more profits to the organization. So I want to use this opportunity to tell you that if you are not yet a member of the Chamber, you are missing a lot. So we are inviting you to be part of this stakeholder that runs the affairs of private sector in FCT. And thank you very much for coming to our premises, and we hope to see you more. And we wish you a enjoyable feast. The last speaker said it's a feast of word. Yes, I totally agree. Thank you very much.
Please, a wonderful round of applause for Dr. Temitope. Thank you very much, Dr. Temitope. That was a goodwill message on behalf of the president of the Abuja Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We'll continue in this event by now taking the opening remarks by the NAS Capone. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me welcome the NAS Capone, Dr. Joseph Oteri, to the podium. Oh, Capone.
Okay, first of all, let me apologize for coming late as a disadvantage of working in the global world where you have a headquarters that is 9 hours from here, and they don't even know that it is morning here where they are fixing their evening meeting. So be that as it may, at least we are here, and I will just speech. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to the 2025 edition of the Feast of Barracuda, proudly hosted by the National Sales Synods, very comfortably through the ZUMA and Sahara decks here in the Federal Capital Territory. This year's theme, Thriving Beyond Hardship, Unlocking Nigeria's Resources for Financial Stability and Economic Growth, could not be more timely or more urgent. We gather today not merely to talk about the challenge,
yeah. Yes. What we did. Okay. Wait, we're having some technical issues.
fine. So as I was saying, as we reflect on Nigeria's economic journey from oil dependency and currency volatility to a surge in youth unemployment, we are reminded that hardship, while daunting, is not destiny. We are here to collectively explore how we move beyond survival towards prosperity. With over 14 types of solid mineral scattered across our nation, vast agricultural potential, and a resilient and creative population, Nigeria has more than enough to thrive. The question is, will we unlock these assets? Today's event is structured to ignite bold conversations, provoke ideas, and offer practical solutions. We are honored to host a distinguished keynote speaker and an exceptional panel of experts from across disciplines: legal, academic, economic, civil society, all committed to interrogating the status quo and envision a new path forward. The Feast of Barracuda has always stood as a platform for thought, leadership, and civic responsibility. In that spirit, let today's discourse inspire action. Action that drives inclusive growth, harnesses community participation, and foster policy innovation. On behalf of National CDOCS, I thank you all for being part of this event. Your presence underscores a shared commitment to building a more resilient, equitable, and prosperous Nigeria. And I would also appreciate those that have actually taken part in our previous Feast of Barracuda. At least when I saw and I say yes to say please sit back, engage wholeheartedly, and enjoy what promises to be an enlightening and impactful day. Ahoy area, ahoy Steras, ahoy couples, DJMs, I know welcome at us.
Another round of applause for NAS couple, Dr. Joseph Oteri. Thank you very much, the NAS couple. Thank you. While the opening remarks was going on, we are pleased to welcome one of our distinguished speakers in this event. Is no other person than Dr. Sam. Please, can you take a bow? Dr. Sam Amadi is the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. And we are so happy to have him on this event. He's a big fish to catch. You're welcome, sir. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to call on the podium the Sahara deck to set the scene for this year's Feast of Barracuda. Please join me welcome Mr. Chike Onya, Sahara deck. A round of applause.
The keynote speaker, distinguished discussants, esteemed guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, ahoy Nas Kapun, members of the Nas School, ahoy CDOCS. Permit me to stand on already well-established protocols. It is with great honor and profound sense of purpose that I welcome you all to the 2025 Annual Feast of Barracuda, proudly hosted by the National Association of CDOCS, Sahara, and ZUMA DEX. This year team, Thriving Beyond Hardship, unlocking Nigeria's resources for financial stability and economic growth, is both timely and very significant. We find ourselves at a pivotal moment in our nation's history, where the economic realities confronting us demand not only reflection, but decisive action. Nigeria, rich in natural and human capital, stands as a crossroads. Our long-standing dependence on oil revenue, while beneficial in many respects, has exposed us to volatility of the global markets. This reliance, like a double-edged sword, has yielded infrastructural strikes on one hand, but on the other, deepened our vulnerability to external shocks. To truly thrive beyond this hardship, we must adopt a multi-dimensional strategy, one that goes beyond rhetoric to focus on innovation, diversification, sustainability, and inclusive economic participation. Today's event provides a platform to interrogate these critical issues. We are privileged to have with us an array of distinguished speakers, thought leaders, who will guide our deliberations. Their insights and experience promise to enrich our understanding and point us towards practical pathways for economic transformation. I extend my sincere appreciation to our keynote speaker, discussants, sponsors, and the organizing committee for their unwavering commitment to making this gathering a reality. May the ideas exchanged, the connections formed, and the resolve ignited here today serve as a catalyst for meaningful change in our nation's economic landscape. With the kind permission of the Vice Capone, I will hereby declare the session open. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Mr. Chika Onya, Sarah Sahara Day. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've come to a very important point in this event, and talking about the main presentation, or what you might want to call the keynote address. And at this point, before I bring to the podium our keynote speaker, I want to specially appreciate our online participants. Even though they are not in the hall, we know that there are a few people participating in this event online. Special appreciation to Dr. Joaba, who is one of the speakers, and he is online. He's been very patiently waiting for the time for his speech. So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome keynote speaker in person of Professor Adesoji Adesoba, the first Deputy President, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A round of applause for Professor Adesoba.
Thank you. I think I'll stand on existing protocols, but let me use this opportunity to welcome again to the Abuja Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Sea Dogs Capone. Dr. Terry, you're welcome to the ACCI. The ACCI belongs to all of us, and I'm happy to say that you are well represented here. Let me also welcome to the ACCI the deck steerers for ZUMA and Sahara decks. You will permit me, for those who are not members of the association, to sometimes delve into the terms used by members of the National Association of Sea Dogs, who people call the pirates. I was thinking we will have the opportunity of watching that documentary, but I'm sure they will give you the link to watch it so that you know who the pirates are, what they are, and why they have consistently, from 1952, been fighting for the poor, been fighting for development, been fighting for justice in our country. Though sometimes they may be misread, but now I'm sure most people now understand who they are and what they stand for. I always tell people when they ask about the pirates that, do you know Professor Wole Soyinka? What do you think about him? That opens a lot of discussions. I say, well, if you know what to think about him, then you know what to think about the pirates. So as young men in 1952, being students of the University College Ibadan, and for you to be a student of the University College Ibadan in 1952, you are definitely not a poor man. It's either you are there on scholarship or you do have resources from very rich parents for you to go to the university then. But that is the beginning of the crusade for development. So if we are going to talk about development and you're going to talk about poverty in 1952, it hasn't stopped. It's a continuous phenomenon that human beings will always find in wherever they are. The crusade for betterment of man is always towards looking for solutions to poverty. Having said this, I'll be failing in my duty if I just start talking without paying a special tribute to one of us, a great Nigerian, an artist known all over the world, who would have been here knowing him. But unfortunately, he walked the path that we will all walk at one point in our lives, and he passed away yesterday. So this is to our late brother, Oluwajayi, well known in the art world. So before I begin my address, permit me to pay a brief tribute to a remarkable pirate, a friend, and a creative spirit, Mr. Oluwajayi, who passed away to the great beyond yesterday morning, 23rd of May, 2025. Olu was more than an artist. He was a cultural force, a custodian of truth, true color, form, and unflinching expression. He chronicled our struggles from poverty to riches and our joys, especially through his lifelong homage to Professor Wole Soyinka, producing more portraits of the Nobel laureate than any other artist has ever done. As a member of the Cosmos Virtual Island and one of the ancient mariners, he carried the piratical spirit with depth, humor, and unrelenting purpose. Today, we all mourn his passage, but we also celebrate a life well lived. Always talking about development, fighting for the poor, and fighting for justice. One life that he continues to speak through every canvas, every stroke, and every memory. I ask that we honor Oluwajayi with a minute of silence. May his soul find anchorage in the eternal seas. Thank you. So, distinguished guests, policymakers, human rights advocates, and fellow builders of a better Nigeria, may I ask how many of us actually walked from our homes to this venue this morning? With a raise of hand, how many people walked from our homes to this venue this morning? May I further ask, how many people came either in their own vehicle or in their friend's vehicle this morning? By show of hands. Aha. So the rest must have come by public transport. And I wonder, did anybody come by public transport without paying for it? Can you raise your hand? Aha. So which means that we all were capable of bringing ourselves here to this venue. And that quickly excludes you from the group of poor Nigerians, people who are less privileged, people who have not eaten today, people who have no skills and who have no opportunity to do anything better with their lives. Those are the people that we are really, really talking about. People who have the ability to take part in the development of this country. So we are gathered not merely to deliberate on the persistent issue of hunger, its impacts, or its long-term implications for our society, but to engage in a deeper, more urgent conversation, one that confirms the glaring contradictions that define our national reality. Can I have that cartoon up? Sure. Akin,
Later, leave.
let me have that cartoon up.
It's not correct.
Okay, it's up. Thank you.
Okay, cartoon.
So we actually inhabit a country endowed with extraordinary natural resources. And we have actually always had natural resources. But I was thinking to myself while sitting down there that Nigeria will continue to grow. Nigeria has continued to grow from the time I was born, when the population was barely 30 million people. But at that time, and that's why I asked, how many people came with their cars? The barometer for measuring poverty and riches were quite different. If you are driving a car in those days, you are seen as a very rich man. But today, it's just a means of transportation. Nigeria has moved on. Nigeria has moved from the stage where people could hardly afford transportation. People could hardly afford public transportation. People would rather walk or ride bicycles. We have moved on. Say that we are rich now. No, the population has also increased from 30 million in 1959 to 220 million. The mouths you have to feed has grown exponentially. So the problem now is not whether poverty exists or whether poverty had existed, but whether poverty will continue to exist. Because where you have everybody without poverty, then there is not much for humanity to do. We have to get to heaven before we get to that stage. But we must make sure that for every time that we have, every stage we have, that we are able to work towards alleviating poverty, improving skills, getting our youth employed, and developing the country. So, we boast of over 84 million hectares of arable land, but it's useless if you don't put it to use. Yet, because we don't put it to use adequately, there are 60% of this remains uncultivated. Our agricultural potential is staggering, and our markets, both domestic and regional, are expansive. We have a huge market in Nigeria, and still, paradoxically, millions go to bed thinking about what they haven't eaten and how to eat the next day. It is not an issue for the opposition to any government in Nigeria to make an issue. It is an issue for all of us to sit down and think out of the box, and for us to determine in our own little corners what we can do, how we can contribute. And this is what we call in the Paris Confraternity Act over here. I'll come to that shortly. But let me inform you that in my professional life of delivering lectures and talking about Nigeria, development, economics, teaching, and all that, I've realized that we do a lot of talking. Nigeria is not short of policies, but what we are short of is how we implement those policies to get to where we want to go. We are a nation of promise, definitely. Yet we are restrained. We are restrained by a lot of things, the politics. We are restrained by poverty, food insecurity, and unfulfilled potential. So that is why we are talking. I spoke to a friend yesterday at another speaking engagement, and I said, I've been to this, your seminar, more than 5 times, consequently. And you are always talking about how to deepen the development of hospitality industry in Nigeria. So we come and we talk about the same thing. Every year we talk, we lash the government, whichever government, we've always been lashing government. So I said that why don't we do something in this sector? why don't you take up credit, for instance, in hospitality? Don't wait for government. Never wait for government. Sometimes you'll be waiting for Godot. Why don't you grade yourself? Why don't you do it? Sit down and bring peers together and do something so that next year we won't be here talking of the same thing. And that's the approach that I have always used. Less of criticizing government, identifying the defects and challenges within government, taking it up within my own lane, within my own sphere, and doing something about it, and talking about it, and making sure that others will emulate that situation. So let's continue with youth unemployment now hovering over 40%. These are the greatest assets to have people. That's why you see that most countries looking for assets, the kind of assets we have, the kind of youths we have in Nigeria, they are poaching them. They take them to other spheres where they make use of them. And that's why you see Nigerian youths all over the world are doing so well. So we must understand that we need to rethink the way we put things together to actually make the youths work. Hello? When the pirates, hello? Yeah. Are you there with me? Hello, can you hear me now? For those who are not pirates, ahoy sea dogs. Ahoy sea dogs. So you're welcome. So I have to get my thoughts back. So I was at the point where I was talking about how China had been able to put itself together to develop, and now it's now a force to be reckoned with. I can assure you, I have served the Nigerian people and Nigerian government in the past 40 years. And of those years, I can only conclude that we have the ability, we have the people, we have the courage to emulate what China did. But I'm not sure whether that opportunity has arisen. each government that comes that we criticize, they will always say they have tried their best. What I want to say that I want to use this opportunity to also talk to people who are always in opposition. There will always be an opposition for any government. In fact, where there is no opposition for a government, then there can never be progress. However, this is an opportunity for for the opposition to create what we call policy laboratories, where they take issues relating to policy of government and they dissect it and come up with alternative agenda. That way we can know whether people who are criticizing the government, when they get there, they can do better, because we can see what they will do. But I've not seen that happening. I've only seen people criticizing every single government from Obasanjo to Yaradua to Jonathan to this government. Let's do something creative so that we can all work together towards removing that poverty or alleviating if it cannot be removed from our people. So we, like I said, we are always a nation of promise. We are restrained by poverty, food insecurity, and unfulfilled potential. With youth unemployment hovering near 40%, our greatest asset, our people, remains underutilized and often disillusioned. The disconnect between what we have and what we achieve is not just a failure of productivity. It is a policy and systems failure. It challenges us to move beyond diagnosis and into action. It's not just talk, talk, and talk. Talk is cheap. Act over yap. We must ask ourselves, how do we transform latent potential into tangible prosperity? How do we build inclusive systems that feed the privileged few and nourish the entire nation economically, socially, and nutritionally? So I seek to explore these questions. It argues that tackling hunger in a land of plenty is not just a matter of increasing production, but of reforming the policies, structures, and institutional frameworks that continue to exclude marginalized and underdeveloped and economic participation, to design inclusive policies that advance Nigeria's economy. So every time I have an opportunity of speaking, I point it to Nigerians that we are moving at a speed. We are moving at a very fast speed in terms of the increase in our population. We grow at about 2.3% per annum. That is phenomenal. That implies that every year, Nigeria, we have new kids born who are almost together a small nation, more than the population of Gambia. Every year, we have more than 5 million Nigerians that are born. Nigeria's population now hovers over 220 million. Imagine that. When I was born, it was barely 30 million people. So it is expected to hit 377 million by 2050, making us the third most populous country globally. Yet food production is not yet keeping pace. That's the problem we're having. Fighting for resources, fighting for space amongst the people. So the World Food Program estimates that 25 million Nigerians face food insecurity, with over 2 million children, almost the population of Gambia, are acutely malnourished. Without inclusive policy reform and the right skills, this trajectory leads to instability, mass urban migration, and deepening inequality. So you are welcome to our world of insecurity. If we don't deal with this problem, we will always face that problem. So we need to feed our people. We need to engage our youth. So truly convert potential into prosperity, we must therefore recognize that economic transformation in Nigeria hinges not only on harnessing natural resources, but more critically, on unlocking the productive power of our people, whether in agriculture, manufacturing, technology, creative industries, or services. The common denominator for sustainable progress is the availability of relevant market-driven skills. Across the country, millions of young people are entering a labor market that is rapidly evolving. Yet, our education and training systems remain largely disconnected from the real economy. This disconnect results in widespread underemployment, reduced productivity, and a cycle of dependency that stifles innovation and growth. I'm looking for a very good plumber, and I can't get one. The guy who did POP for me in my house smacks of an idiot. Yet, people can't get jobs because they are not properly skilled. We need to properly identify the areas we need skills, where the skills gap are. And this is what we should address. So, addressing these demands a national commitment to skills development. In addressing skills shortage, the dual vocational strategy, which is a model that blends theory with practice, allows young Nigerians to gain relevant skills while embedded in real workspace environments. This is a model that is being adopted by the Business Entrepreneurship Skills and Technology Center of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy Dr. Tinuke spoke about this initiative, which I started about 8 years ago, with over 4,000 trained by Best Center across trades, such as digital skills, tailoring, agriculture, fashion and beauty, office administration, facility management, and among others. This center proves that you don't need $1 billion budget to create jobs. You need vision, partnership, and execution. I've mentioned this center as a case study of what we are doing. Act over YAP. Now, let me tell you about something phenomenal that is happening. The colonial masters will never teach you to be independent of them, especially with things that they will continue to benefit from. And one basic sector where technology, where innovation exists, and where there's a need for skills is in mining, geology and mining. So Nigeria is one of the richest sources of untapped gemstones and other minerals. But we export all these raw stones and import jewelry for fitting value and jobs. At this stage, how many women that are in here are using Nigeria-made jewelry? I know you are, comrade. Are any of the young ladies using any jewelry made in Nigeria? No. And that's because though we are the richest source of materials for jewelry, we do export all of them because we have those skills to transform this jewelry into value. So to reverse this, about 7 years ago, some of us at the Abuja Chamber of Commerce established the Gemological Institute of Nigeria. And this is complemented by an MOU with the Yakubu Gowon University of Abuja. So the Yakubu Gowon University, formerly University of Abuja, working with us, we have now established the first in Africa formal curriculum in gemology and jewelry designs. So I want to use this opportunity to thank Dr. Isiaku for leading the way. I know what you did to ensure that this was accepted by the university board and how far we have gone. This is the first time an African university will be teaching Africans about what they have in the ground and how to convert it into real value. So that when we have our children who go out, especially the millennials and the Gen Zs, who are also always trading on TikTok or spend most of their time buying things from China to sell all the jewelry they sell from China. But now we are going to teach our children to do this. And Yakubu Gowon University is leading the way. Our goal is to build a workforce of skilled gemologists, eventually skilled goldsmiths, jewelers and gemstones entrepreneurs who will add value locally and export globally. The good news is that Dr. Aminu and myself, we did go to see the Minister of Solid Minerals, who incidentally asked me to convey his goodwill message to this gathering. Sorry, I will do that before I finish this. And he has gladly approved that the Jewelry Center, which is situated in this office, a multi-million-dollar center, made for the making of, created for the teaching of jewelry making and sitting there idle, will be used by the university students forthwith. So we want to thank the Minister of Solid Minerals for this. People who have heard me speak over the years and ages, they know about my passion about the use of blockchain technology to reduce poverty. First of all, until recently, the Nigerian government, for whatever reasons, and I think it's more of lack of adequate information, frowned at blockchain technology. So policies were not clear, it was opaque. At best, our children who were involved in blockchain technology were called Yahoo because we did not understand what we were doing. 70% of those who are in government have no clue about blockchain. So can anybody in the audience who's not been speaking to me in the past 1 month tell us how much did this sector was transacted in this sector in the past 1 year? Does anybody know? Is it 1 billion? Not Naira. Is it $1 billion? Is it 10? Is it 2? Is it 9? Well, if you check your Google and Google it, you'll find out that Nigerian children, mostly Gen Zs, have amongst themselves transacted over $50 billion in this sector. So Nigeria is the 6th largest economy for blockchain transactions in the world. So that's why we must have a second look at how to utilize what our youth have already brought into, what they understand, the language of the youth, and see how we can use it to help them put adequate policies that will help them, not inhibit. Because what we've been doing is inhibit the growth of that sector. That is a sector that's been accepted by world economists. The American government has accepted it. The digital currency is now being used as part of their reserves. Europe is building a lot of policies to encourage it. China, of course, is buying it up. Right now, the digital currency, called the digital gold, has moved from just $1. And today, if you want to buy Bitcoin, it is $110, $1,000 for one. This is the storage of digital money, and countries that are discerning will continue to use this as a means of storage of wealth. So we cannot afford to be left behind. Nigerians are very fast. In fact, our children have left us behind. So we need to reverse our steps and come back and look at the opportunities available in this sector and redesign policies to encourage the blockchain technology. For those who don't understand, in the 21st century, data is food. Technology is like fertilizer. Blockchain is like irrigation. Blockchain offers transformative potential to tackle hunger, disease, and economic exclusion. And here is how we do it. Transparent agricultural supply chains. Using blockchains, farmers can now track produce from farm to market, reducing waste, preventing fraud, and ensuring fair pricing. So it's not just about digital currency. It's much more than that. Decentralized food aid. Smart contracts can deliver an aid directly to verified recipients, bypassing corruption and middlemen. Indeed, the blockchain is so transparent that is the only thing that you have that can stop corruption, because everybody can see what everybody else is doing. There is no mago-mago, there is no hiding behind one finger with the blockchain. Also, you can have health access and disease management. The blockchain allows secure medical data sharing, improving healthcare delivery in rural areas and during pandemics. So we can also have digital land registry, which inhibits agriculture. So clear, immutable records of land ownership protect farmers from displacement and unlock access to credit. So currently, like I said, Nigeria ranks 6th globally in blockchain adoption, with millions of youths, our children and grandchildren, using crypto for savings and remittances. Yet, our regulatory environment remains hesitant. It remains hesitant. We risk losing our digital future to nations moving faster. And whether we like it or not, nations are already moving. So let's compare this with the United States. In 2020, President Donald Trump issued Executive Order 1377 pushing for a review of emerging financial technologies, including blockchain. That initiative laid the groundwork for federal blockchain strategy, blah, 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 more blah. What has this got to do with poverty reduction? What has this got to do with hunger? What I'm saying now is that we should carefully look at what our children are doing that we don't understand. We should look at the opportunities they are in, and we should try to harness the opportunities and rebuild our policies, get towards ensuring that that there's adequate skills to be able to utilize new technology, robotics, and so on to address issues related to poverty. It is happening elsewhere. It is happening to a very little extent in Nigeria. We can actually expand this focus. So if we are to tackle hunger and advance inclusive economic prosperity in Nigeria, we must embrace a broader understanding of what drives development. Policy is crucial, but it is only the beginning. Governments must create enabling environments. We are always talking about it. Ever since I joined the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission in 1999, I remember our key phrase was enabling environment, enabling environment. But we are still at it. So people who come into Nigeria today will say, you have not developed. But people who lived in Nigeria will also know that we have done a lot in terms of development in Nigeria. But maybe we are not moving as fast a pace as population increase. So Nigerian transformation will come from top-down directives, will not come from top-down directives alone. It will come from all of us, from people who take initiatives, innovate within constraints, and solve problems that affect their communities. We must stop waiting for Abuja to save us. The future belongs to those who can blend resilience with resourcefulness, those who can plant cassava by day and code smart contracts by night, those who can sell shea butter globally with the help of e-commerce, or build climate resilient solutions from indigenous knowledge and modern science. This is not a romantic ideal. It is a practical necessity. across Nigeria, we are seeing sparks of this movement already. Tech hubs in Yaba and Kaduna, fashion entrepreneurs in Aba and Kano, agro processors in Benue and Nasarawa, young artisans, renewable energy startups, and digital creative carving out opportunity in the absence of perfect conditions. Such memorandums as we have with the Yakubu Gowon University to build a resource center for jewelry makers. But these sparks must be nurtured, scaled, and supported through inclusive policies that do not stifle initiative but enable it. What we need is a fusion of forces. Let us marry entrepreneurship, equity, agriculture with AI, and tradition with technology. Let us center people, especially youth and women, not as beneficiaries, but as co-creators of the nation's future. The true power of a country lies not just in its institutions, but in the imagination, drive, and determination of its people. When policies align with people's potential and when initiative is celebrated, not punished, we build a Nigeria where no one is left behind. In conclusion, my message today is simple but very urgent. Train the youth through dual vocational education and digital upskilling. Mine our minerals and add value through gemology and trade. Code the future through blockchain-powered inclusion. Feed our people by empowering them to feed themselves. We must move from scarcity to scale, from talk to tech, and from policy promises to people-powered progress. Ladies and gentlemen, in this land of plenty, let us ensure hunger becomes a relic of history, not a reality of tomorrow. In doing this, it must be all hands on deck, and not just the notion that only the government has a role to play in this ever important task. Thank you, and ahoy.
Another round of applause for our keynote speaker and distinguished DJ. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that presentation has opened the space for more and depth of engagement on our theme for this year. So I want to just use this opportunity to welcome a number of our guests and very senior members of the National Association of CDOTs who have joined us in this event. I'm sure there are quite a number of them. I cannot begin to mention names individually, but you're all welcome. Thank you very much for keeping a date with Sahara ZUMA Day. Having listened to the keynote speaker, we'll make some more progress in this event by bringing on board more speakers to do justice to the theme of our FOB this year. And just before we convene the panel of discussants, I'd like to give a few minutes to one of our speakers to give us some more insight to the theme. And please join me to welcome to the podium Dr. Sam Amadi, to give his presentation. just to throw engagement to the topic. Dr. Sam Amadi is the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I just want to prompt you that the profile for each of our speakers are on the program brochure, and you can access that by scanning the barcode on your table. So please do well to check the barcode, to check the program and read about each of our speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Thank you so much. First, let me apologize that I was not here at the beginning, so I don't know the dignitaries already mentioned. I came back from travel and came sick. I'm having stomach problems this morning, but because of my support and respect for marriage confraternity, I decided to call. I think the Capoon mentioned that I'll be here several times. When I was leaving this morning, my wife said something. Said, if tomorrow they say you are a member of pirate confraternity, I hope you will not say you're not a member. I remember I gave the Rafa Brown lecture in Benin many, many years ago. And since then, I've been at least more than 4 times, I've come to speak. So maybe my wife is correct. They said so, I will not deny. I think, and by the way, thank you, keynote speaker, Prof, for very good point. I not to say, but I will just focus on this conclusion. He talked about 3 things. I think he invested so much hope on our youths. He talked about dual capacity building, skill, and of course, formal education. He talked about resource, and of course, talk about blockchain technology. I'm not an expert in blockchain technology, but I know a lot about technological innovation and how it leads to economic development. And I think the principles are the same. It's about innovation. Let's, just 2 days ago, I think 2 days ago, I was a speaker at Benson University on economic development in Nigeria, rethinking the policy and management for economic development. We had Professor Dr. Ayo Teriba, Professor Shagagi, who is also a non-executive member of the Central Bank. It was a heated discussion, and 3 points came out clear. That the university professors themselves are confused when they would tell their students about Nigerian economic development. Interestingly, 2 sets of data I used in that lecture. First, by independence, per capita GDP, which means all the gross, or everything we produce in Nigeria, informal, public, private, if you total it together and divide it by our population, was far ahead of Ethiopia. Very far. By 2025, Nigeria has equal per capita GDP with Ethiopia. In 1960, we are 1 apart. In 2025, we have converged. So 2 things happened. Ethiopia converged, Nigeria diverged downwards. And then we met, we're now convergent. The second is that in 1994, Nigeria generated 1,450 megawatts, 1,450 megawatts supplied to homes. That was before we started our reform in 2000. Taiwan had 1,300 and something megawatts. Today, Taiwan has 30,000. Nigeria has 4,025 megawatts. Best case scenario, sometimes you have less than that. So clearly, something is not working. And again, if you pick any old textbook from any of the Nigerian leading economists. And yesterday, 2 days ago, I was reading Cho Kong, who was our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance in 1986. He wrote a book, great book, about the Nigerian traumatized economy. Everything Nigeria has done, the same fiscal instability, the same monetary crisis. In fact, at a point in 1986, we could not, our foreign reserve could not service 1 month import. That was the same condition Tinubu met in 2000 last year when he became president. So we are around a cycle of economic failure. We have not yet moved significantly away from the crisis we have. And so the question is, and I told the professors, one mark of an intellectual is to ask for explanations. There's always a reason why something is not working. There's always a reason why some countries are getting it right, some not getting it right. We talked about China. So my first point will be this, that we should focus a lot more on the quality of ideas that drive our economic and political activities. My sense is that Nigeria is running on a third-rate idea. Third rate, no doubt about that. Whether in economic management. When we started privatization, when I became chairman of NEC in 2010, I had an issue. I fell out with Patinaj, who was a minister. In fact, he called a meeting of all the power, Minister of Power, BPE. They say I must be sacked. What's the offense? I had a conversation with Bola Onegoro, DG of BPE there. And I said, we're in error. But I have read the literature of economics and privatization. It's difficult to get it right. Always. You need to do some fundamental things. That a simplistic idea that private capital equates efficiency has no basis in economics. We argued. They said, I don't believe I should be sacked. But then I said, no. Today, I'm sad that I'm right. We got our ideas wrong. The World Bank showed us wrong ideas. Now, let's take a sample of countries that have got it right. Take, for example, Korea. Take, for example, China, Taiwan, even Malaysia. That's not too much there. These people had different ideas about economic management, different from the one we're pursuing. So I want to make this point clear. We need to reinvest in the capacity to produce. First point I want to make. Second point I want to make is very important. Economic development requires a convergence between political institutions and economic institutions in the logic. So let's take an example. The former Minister of Finance says that the Nigeria's debt profile, debt problem, is more of a revenue problem, a productivity problem, which is true. I mean, we are indebted, but our debts, our stock of debt is not too much. But our debt to revenue is very bad. Our debt servicing to revenue, at the point we are using about 98 naira out of every 100 naira to service debts. What that tells you is that we're not producing enough. Now, the question then is, how do you produce enough? If your institutions, legal, political, is focused not on rewarding production, but on rewarding other criteria. So take our tax structure. The new proposed tax makes sense. Why should it be sharing revenue on the basis of population and size and not on the basis of contribution? So I don't want to provoke a political debate, but the point is this, that all countries that get the economy right have committed to a certain structure of reward that aims at incentivizing better and higher production. whether through technological innovation. And that's why we have intellectual property regime. The idea is that if we secure for people reward for innovation, they will innovate more. And that's why in 1978, when Deng became premier of China, he was very clear. We are going to hold on to our Marxist political ideology, but we're going to follow American style and economics. We are going to ensure production, more production. We are going to increase our efficiency, and we're going to protect the right of people who produce more to earn more. I think that and again, we can't even unlock our youth innovation if the country, it doesn't appear to them that is a country where if you do better than B, if A does better than B, A will get a better outcome. So I want us to think in a macro manner that yes, this micro crisis relate to a macro structure of the economy. You raise the issues around revenue, solid mineral and resources. Now, every economic theory of growth must proceed from first endowment, what you have. You use endowment to get what you need. Now, this is the problem. If you look at the central bank report of 1986-87 around Nigeria export, it's the same as today. We are exporting primary produce or low-level addition to value. We've not started trading goods of high value. So, for example, technology products will earn over 100 times more return than oil and gas, for example. So the question then is, why is Nigeria not moving to even a medium industrialization level where we can convert some of these resources into products that can capture significant value in global exports? I give you just to illustrate, look at uranium and natural mineral resources. We have a lot now. Now, what we are seeing is, apart from illegal mining, the governors and government are more focused on sales of these resources to perhaps Apple and other IT companies. But what Taiwan did that made it today the world leader in semiconductor in terms of the TSMC of Taiwan is the world leader. But they grew an ecosystem around that capability. So what they do, Taiwan knows that the global economy is now based on fragmentation. For example, you don't have a country that produces everything about this. So people are now saying, what component of this technology can we do have a comparative advantage? We can develop capabilities, create research institutions like you're trying to do now, create skill sets around it, and use it to export instead of aiming to produce Apple. So today, Taiwan does not produce any of these big bicycles, but every big, strong bicycle, the key components are from Taiwan. But the bicycle is produced maybe in Netherlands or England or elsewhere. So Taiwan saw the global economy and constructed its competitive advantage and said, with this what we have, can we create an economy around it that reinforces skills, create competencies, and open us to trade? That's what we've not done in Nigeria. We had palm kernel. Malaysia took it from Enugu. We have oil, but we are still importing oil technology. Recently, we started the local content. We've not yet created skill and human capital around our natural endowment. So I will urge Prof, those of them who are talking with the policymakers, let them think more strategically around the fact that there is no global economy. What we have is national economies in competition. The problem with Nigerian policymakers is that they're too romantic about globalization. WTO, our sister is there. It doesn't help you. You have to see the global economy as war. And that's why I support Trump in what he's doing. You have to, every economy develops
do competition with other economies. For example, why shouldn't we dominate Ghana, Sierra Leone? Why should we be thinking about ECOWAS as if it's a glove? ECOWAS is a market for Nigeria to dominate, but you can't dominate except you are developing tradable goods that are of high value. To remove Malaysia, Taiwan, and take that space, they move up. Now, look at the cycle of global economy. You attack the person who is slightly higher than you because you have competitive advantage in labor wage. So Nigeria can be manufacturing whatever Malaysia is doing. Forget America. Don't say you want to get aircraft like the former minister. Can we knock off Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, because we can produce cheaper than them and we'll build the knowledge base? Then what Taiwan will do is to migrate to China level. China is moving to American level. They're going into innovative technology. Now, let's go and occupy that space. That is how nations grow. So I think that what we're missing is that we don't have leaders who are seeing the world as a competition and asking themselves, how do we leverage our competitive advantage? What do we do to create a coherent, economic base that can stand modern economy? The last point you raised, I want to end without the last point, is so we talk about youth. Yes, Nigeria has human capital, but still a potential. The quality of our universities are degraded. I was having a conversation with Asuri, the president of Academic Association of Research Institutions. They have no power, no electricity. If you look at how much goes to research, to university centers and institutions, how are you going to, okay, this blockchain, every day is changing, is that not correct? There's improvement. You have to have a research base attached. In those days, nobody goes to university in China, but today, Chinese universities are globally competitive. Apart from, God bless Bishop Wedekpo, who gave us two good schools, Covenant and Landmark, which is number 1 and 3 or 2 safe in Nigerian structure. Look at the rating of all Nigerian universities. There's no Nigerian university, apart from Ibadan, that occasionally tries, and Covenant, that is the first 10 in Africa. None. So how are you going to grow? The lesson of history tells us that there are 3 things that you see in any good economy. 1, you're going to see innovative companies. You will see growing quality universities. Very important. And you will see government that is developmental state, that is actually helping to deepen the capabilities of both research institutions and companies. That's why you see as a country is developing, their companies begin to go global, because that's really the driver of economic transformation. So I think that Nigeria has huge capability. Young people are innovative. But look, just like everything we have, it does not translate to economic development until you harness those potential well and make them become competitive. The last point then is therefore, how do we solve the problem of incentive? All this grammar, if those who make policy and who manage them do not have incentive to do the right thing, you will never get development. So if I have no incentive to improve the regulatory framework of blockchain technology, I will not do it. The science may be clear, the idea is clear, but what will make me commit to that process? And so the point is this, one of the reasons why we are failing in economic development is that our leaders are disconnected from the impact of the economy. Very, very important. We have created a political class that is not embedded, sufficiently embedded in society. There used to be a great economist called Chalmers Johnson, who wrote a book about Japan, Meeting, how Japan became great. And I remember very simple. Japan constructed a development agency and embedded it in business and society in a way that policymakers understand the problem of business people. And policymakers have a commitment to drive that development. And so my conclusion will be, until we have elite consensus on development, that Nigerian leaders agree that our future as a country is not on who becomes Nigerian president, who shows in power. Our future is to break out of this poverty economy. Nigeria had a promise of emerging as a medium power, and by now would have been perhaps one of the leading economies. We were better than South Korea and China in 1980. By 1982, our GDP per capita was better than China. So what changed in China? Very simple, three things. Then, when he took over, he says something. He says, pursue wealth by all means. China committed to economic growth. That's why they are brutal. The Chinese leaders didn't want to hear. They were obsessed about GDP growth. We just want growth, and you are wise. If you don't have a strong economy, you have a strong military. If you don't have a strong military, you have no leverage for world politics. So this idea that Nigeria is an African giant is fiction. It has to be founded on a strong economy that creates a strong military. Then you can leverage. That's why no one at China today is a global player. Economy is important. So that's the first thing China then said again. It says, I don't care whether the cat is white or black, as long as it catches rat. Pragmatism. Let's get this done. Forget theories about market fundamentalism. What works, works. What doesn't work, doesn't work. And thirdly, he told the third plenum of the CCP and said, pursue truth through facts. Fact realism. Pursue truth through, forget ideology, forget this concussion. Nigeria is not doing well. Not just not doing well, Nigeria is not likely to do well in future. Stark reality. If there is no quick change of direction, we will not do well in future. If in 1960, we were better than Korea, and we were far better than Ethiopia, and in 2025, we have converged with Ethiopia, what makes you believe that if you continue in what you're doing, you do better? So the truth of the matter is simple. We know what to do. First, to conclude now, finally, first, we should be concerned about our economic development. If you ask me, next to God, people should worship the economy. The economy is critical even for family stability. The reason why we have too much immorality is that people are so hungry and poor that they have broken loose of all moral control, guardrails, whether religion, Islam, Christianity. People, as Professor Jagwati of India Supreme Court said, he said, people who are necessitous are unfree people. People who are so poor are unfree. So we must take economic development as important. Two, we have to, there's no way you can commit to growth without revising your assumptions. We cannot have a political system that rewards failure and have an economic system that is productive. You have to align our political and social institutions to the idea of efficiency and development. And thirdly, finally, we must focus on human capital, not as institutions will do. Okay, human capital, Minister of Youth, you didn't know. Human capital has three dimensions we're offering. One, the knowledge quotient, what people know, ideas. Two, the capacity to apply those knowledge to action, which is backed by social, moral, social capital. If we're a country of fraud, today, I can say that more than 20% of certificates in Nigeria, or at least that, are fake. Including professors. NUC, go to a website. NUC has a report of professors. Over 20% of professors in Nigeria are not, some didn't pass WAEC, some didn't do. So this is a country that has accepted fakery and fraud as a national ethos. Productivity is not about hardware, only knowledge. It's about software, morality, social value. until we begin to restore efficiency, restore merit, restore a sense of order. We can't see there's a growing pressure on the fact that we have to restore back a culture of respect for rules, culture of efficiency, reward for work, and punishment for failure. We have become a country of too many exceptions for the rule of law. If my father is an important person, I can get away with everything. When last do we have accountability? Look at how people are killed every day. It's not a distinct part of economic development. It matters. If you cannot punish people who kill other people, like the guy they killed in your state. If people cannot a rule-based society, how can you create investment? And by the way, bad news. If you look at oil and gas sector, Nigeria has not received any new investment. They are going to Angola and elsewhere because our political risk profile is very high. The uncertainty is very high. So I hope that Pirates Confederation, a well-established, influential group, should refocus back to say, let's get back to the basics of a society where there's order, where there's merit, and where government structure is determined and drive towards efficiency and productivity and reward for innovation. You can't survive 21st century world today without being a country that has its own capacity for economic growth. I pity Nigeria. God will help us. God will help us because we are entering a very difficult world era. In the past, we were helped by what we call liberal internationalism or liberal internationalism, so we can give them some support. We can help them. Today's world is much more, real politics. And so countries like Nigeria, growing population, environmental degradation, and you don't have capacity to solve problems and create wealth. And then you don't have a global USAID or DFID or World Bank who will give you support. We are entering into a dangerous time and we're required to wake up and create an economy that works for all. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for our speaker, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you, Dr. Amadi. You all agree with me that that was a wonderful presentation and another set of materials to add to what the keynote speaker has already put forward before us in this FOB. So without much ado, we are moving straight into the discussion panel. And at this point, I would like to crave the indulgence of our distinguished discussant to get ready for the discussion panel. So right away, we would like to invite and constitute the panel of discussants. Let us start with our keynote speaker. Please, sir, you will oblige us to be part of the panel of discussants. So we would like to respectfully invite our keynote speaker, Professor Adesuba, to please come up to where the panel is being constituted. There's a round of applause for our keynote speaker. Also to quickly join him is no other person than someone here who have been part of a number of our events. As a matter of fact, I think Dr. Amadi humorously said that if outside that this lady is referred to as a member of the National Association of CDOs, that she will not be able to argue it out. So let me invite no other person than Comrade Ene Obi. Comrade Ene Obi is the chair, advisory committee, the Nigerian Endowment through Assets. neat initiative. And she also of ActionAid. Please join me welcome Comrade Ene Obi to the panel. Also, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know that, as I said earlier, we are live on Zoom and we are live on YouTube. With us today on Zoom is also another discussant who have been patiently following the proceedings in this event. Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Dr. Joe Abba to the panel of discussants. Dr. Joe, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your patience. And Dr. Joe is the country director of DAI. Also to join us in this panel is no other person than Dr. Aminu Ishiaku. This is a round of applause for Dr. Ishiaku. Dr. Ishiaku is the head of the Department of Geology and Mining, Yakubu Gowon University, Abuja. And you did hear some of the wonderful work that our distinguished discussant has done in respect to our natural resources. And then finally, I'd like to also welcome to the panel, Dr. Sam Amadi, who have just graced us with some more materials for this event. You're welcome, Doctor. As you can see, we have a formidable panel of discussants, and this panel will be moderated by no other person than Dr. Tinuke Temitope. Dr. Temitope is the Director of Business and Entrepreneurship Skills and Technology Center, what we call BEST Center, at the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You're welcome, Ma. So I think at this point, I'll hand over the microphone to you to moderate and sort of engage the panel on our theme for this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir. It's Feast of Barracuda, and as the first keynote, sorry, I don't know the welcome address. Our Ghana gave the welcome address, said it's a feast of words, not a feast of food. So for those of us thinking the feast is all about food, I'm not even sure we are going to eat food here today. I mean the literary food. But we are already eating the food of words, which encompasses a lot of food of thoughts, especially from our speakers. The keynote speaker, Professor Adesoji Adeshuga, thank you so much for spoiling us from different angles. Dr. Sam Amadi, that was also a very powerful presentation. Without wasting so much of our time, we go straight to this panel session. And from my hand, I am very glad to officially welcome you to this important panel session. One house, please. Okay, so while we continue in this event with the theme Thriving Beyond Hardship, Unlocking Nigerian Resources for Financial Stability and Economic Prosperity, we are having this session on the title From Resource to Revenue, Unlocking Nigerian Solid Minerals for Inclusive Growth. This is a very important topic. I have my panelists here already and they have been well introduced. I love this set of panelists I have because they all have experience when it comes to this sector, especially as regards to activities within this sector and policy. As we gather under the broader theme of Thriving Beyond Hardship, Unlocking Nigerian Resources for Financial Stability and Economic Growth, this session focuses on one of the country's most underutilized yet highly promising assets, the solid mineral sector. Nigeria is richly endowed with over 40 types of solid minerals spread across every state, There is practically no state in Nigeria, the 36 states and FCT, that does not have more than one endowment underground as a solid mineral. Yet, this sector contributes less than 1% to our GDP. I was in the India High Commission 2 days ago, and the High Commissioner was telling us that the gemstones and jewelry industry in India contributes 7% to their GDP, not less than 7%. That runs in billions of dollars. Why is that for Nigeria? We have these abundant resources. Why is it that it contributes less than 1% to our GDP? What are we missing? And more importantly, how do we move from potentials to prosperity? Today, we are joined by a distinguished panel of experts, leaders in policy, academia, governance, development, and grassroots engagement, who will help us unpack the challenges and, more importantly, the opportunities in unlocking the full value of our solid minerals. Together, we will explore how this sector can become a powerful engine for inclusive growth, job creation, investment, and sustainable development. So let's go along. I was about to ask for another microphone. So I'm going to throw the first questions. After these sessions, we are going to give room for maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience that could be targeted at our panelists. And lest I forget, we also have Dr. Joe Abba joining us online. Please, can we pin Dr.? Please, let's pin him on the screen so we can, okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, our keynote speaker, Professor Adesoja Adeshuga. Assuming your background in investment and economic development, private sector development, and also in the solid mineral sector, especially the gemstones area, how can Nigeria attract investment? I know we have policy issues, but irrespective of that, we still need to keep moving. As you and Dr. Sam have said earlier, we need to keep moving. So how can we attract serious investment, both local and foreign, into this solid mineral sector, considering the benefits that is inside this sector for us as Nigerians?
Thank you very much. Let me start by a quote from a very good old friend of mine, who is not a Nigerian, incidentally. And the guy looked at me and said, Prof, you know one thing about Nigeria, you people are so rich that all your riches are beneath the earth. You live on top of riches and you don't know. And when you die, they bury you inside those riches. Nigeria, what he was trying to tell me was that Nigeria is truly a blessed country. And like Dr. Tipitope said, there is virtually nowhere in Nigeria, no place in Nigeria, no space in Nigeria where you do not have some valuable minerals not tapped. Not tapped because for so many reasons. One, the laws, the policies relating to the sector has hindered a lot of attraction to development. In 2003, thereabout, no, 2007 actually, while I was a director at the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, a world-renowned company wanted to invest in the Nigerian sector, mining sector. And that's Rio Tinto. You remember them? It's, I think, the biggest mining company from Australia. They actually came to Nigeria with $2 billion. They were interested in mining gold. So they came to Nigeria and spent a year with us studying the environment and seeing the possibilities for them to invest. So they came to see me at the NIPC. They had a problem. The problem was there was so much opportunity, but they were not going to invest here. They were not going to invest because of the policies which did not encourage foreign investors. Foreign capital or capital at all is seen to be is like a coward. It will only go to where it's comfortable. It will not stay where it's where the laws are not clear. Not stay where the judicial system is suspect. It will not stay where their basic infrastructures are not available. And it will not stay where return of investment is not guaranteed. So those are the basic reasons why so far I think that we are not moving as fast as we ought to. The environment is still not clear. And it's very simple. I always tell people that what we need to do is not just to reinvent the wheel, it's to look at places where things work. Look at what they are doing right and just copy and make sure we get it right. We must do it with a lot of conviction that things can actually be done, irrespective of who the civil servant or the public servant is that is involved. We must not suffer fools gladly. And that's the only way we can move forward. But as long as there is a lot of discretion in what we do, as long as the rules are not clear, as long as investors cannot guarantee the investment for the next period, they will run away. I'm happy that there's a reform of the tax regime in Nigeria, but I'm not very particularly happy that there are some parts of the tax regime that is changing, especially with regards to the free trade zone, that is going to take us back. Rules are changing when investors have come in and have invested their money in establishments in their free trade zone. Then all of a sudden we wake up and tell them that we have changed the position. Investors don't like that. They want stability. They want to be able to foresee and predict the future. That is still lacking in Nigeria. I think that's one of the major reasons why development is not as fast as we would like. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For a round of applause. Because we have a large panel, so we are going to be moving fast. I also like to mention that Dr. Wayimi Eribo, the Director General of Women Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture, is supposed to also be on this panel, is sent her apologies due to unforeseen circumstances. So for the next question, I'm going to move to you, Comrade NLOB. Seeing what you do at NATE, the Nigeria Endowment Through Asset Transformation, which was specifically established to address these long-standing challenges in mineral resources, challenges such as weak regulatory frameworks, which Prof have just mentioned a lot about, limited community engagement, and a lot of environmental concerns for the little mining operations that are happening around. So how can Nigerians sustainably transform these solid mineral assets that we have, rather than it just for us working on it and being buried in it when we die? How can we transform this asset into national endowments that will drive equitable wealth distribution, economic power, and security?
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here to participate. And I want to say congratulations to the leadership. Like my brother said, if I'm told now, people see me, they will say, so you have joined Wole, you know, in this effort now. You know, the thing is, wherever citizens are gathered, yes, and they are talking of social justice, and they are talking about lives of the people, lives of the common people, you will find me there. We are all citizens of Nigeria. And I want to check. He said there are no poor countries, only failed systems. Thank you. He said, oh, thank you. That's very clear. Noam Chomsky said, there are no poor countries, only failed systems for managing resources. And that is what we're seeing here. I want to say congratulations to everyone here. And I getting to be in the room makes me understand more what the confraternity is doing. But there's also a bit of silence of the confraternity in the movement of civil society contributing to national development. You may be doing a lot, but in the body of civil society organizations, because we are going into a time when there is docility in terms of activism in Nigeria, in terms of demanding transparency and accountability. And I think a lot has been said here about standing up about the issues of sanctions. People are being punished. Somebody comes, June 12th. It's still remarkable in our memories. The president had presided over that a few months ago, confessed that he annulled. He took a decision to annul. But did he care about the lives that were lost because of June 12th? And he's still walking free. Should he not be in prison? Should he not be sanctioned?
Watch it.
So we can just walk free, we punish the people.
Watch it.
Who bears the brunt is the society. Many of us are here today because we believe in Nigeria. We do believe in Nigeria. I believe in Nigeria. I'm hopelessly hopeful, just like Bishop Hassan Kuka, on the future of Nigeria. I believe in the system. It's one of the greatest countries in the world. And I have traveled far and wide. And I still believe in it. And nobody will chase me out of this country. Those who cannot stay can go. And those who are chasing people will be the people to the persons to leave. And so Nigeria is richly endowed with over 40 solid minerals in 450 locations and contributing only 1%. So many of you, what we should be worrying about is why are there crises in different states of the Federation? Those who are coming, what have they found in those environments? Because it's very, wherever there are solid minerals, when you have conflicts, go and find out what is at the background. And so in this effort, therefore, despite this abundance, the sector contributes only 1% to the GDP. And then you are looking at the strategy for transforming Nigeria's solid mineral wealth into national assets that promote equitable wealth distribution, and also looking at the long term in the economic security. What is the current state of the Nigerian solid mineral sector? Is quite underutilized, and largely it's an informal sector. If you remember the crisis we're having in Zamfara, Zamfara has pure gold. Pure gold. Where are the industries where this gold are being turned to something? I think if you remember very well, one of the former governors had some gold trapped in Ghana. People will trap your assets as you are moving. People have the history, they're telling it. I don't know what has happened to those gold that were arrested in Ghana. And so you have poor regulatory frameworks and enforcement. So when you are talking of transforming, what are the frameworks? And I tell you, you have limited geological data and infrastructure, which has been mentioned already. I think Prof from, the university will tell you, heading geology department, which should be one of the most important departments, is lowly funded. And then, but I'm happy about the new development on the gemstone, but there are so many things that we need to do. So gold mine is found in so many states in Nigeria. The gold itself is found, but no mines. Some are sitting, many states do not know what they have, and I can tell you that. And so there is high level of illegal mining and revenue losses and weak leakages in terms of the sector. When you look at the vision for transformation, you need to establish a solid mineral sector that is transparent, efficient, regulated, and economically significant. What we are having, you don't know, in terms of the oil sector, we don't know how many people are having oil wells, individuals. When you are pretending to be doing it, with the federal government orchestrating everything, they sell oil wells to themselves. Where is the transparency and accountability? And so you need to be able to have broad-based economic growth, just like my brother has stated, local content and job creation. More than 62% of Nigerians are young people. We have the energy. I always state that a population is a blessing, not a curse. You have energy, even you have children. The way the population is stagnated or fragmented, you have so many children who have gone to JSS 3 because of poverty, because we're having this discussion at a time where more than half of the population, more than 100 million Nigerians are living below the poverty line. And so there are so many people that cannot JSS 3. Many of you here have paid school fees or maybe WAEC fees for other people. So when you cannot pay fees in GSS, it means we have left so many of our children behind. And then when you go to the WAEC level, there are so many that also are left behind because to pay WAEC fee and NECO fee is not for those who are the 100 million, and so whose children are in school. And so the difficulty in investing in the human capital, I always talk about the investment of the human capital. If you give people scholarship to go and learn, you are not doing them a favor. You are developing the human capital for your economy. You are investing for your economy. And any leader who is not talking about who will be in this machine tomorrow, who will who will be here in this sector tomorrow, then you are not planning for your economy. So when those days, when everybody or many Nigerians, anybody, you had scholarship to go abroad and study and come back home. They don't know you. You just have to qualify by an exam. And then you are given a full scholarship to travel and come back to Nigeria. It is called investment in the human capital. You make the citizens also believe in the system. So you have social and environmental responsibilities. The pillars of transformation, I will just point at 5. You have governance and institutional reform. I was somewhere in a holiday, some part of the US sometime, and we met a gentleman who came into Nigeria. They came as a government, on whether KNG can give Nigeria light. And they went there and they look at it and they came back that Nigeria can give light KNG can provide light 24/7 and with extra 5 countries 24/7. And the cost then was given at $14 billion. But what they were told, just like you had the British airline that wanted to manage Nigerian Airways and went back. They told them to put 2 billion, add additional 2 billion. That one is not your concern. Just get the 2 billion, give it to us, add it, and then it's about 16 billion. And they said they could not do that to Nigeria because Nigeria is perceived to be a very poor country. They couldn't do that on their conscience. They packed their things and went. Can you then look at the potential that you and I have? And I was also in an environment, I was in Eastern Africa at a meeting on illicit financial flows, where one American writer, also a researcher, conducted some researches in 5 African countries. He also made a statement that whatever you are doing, that Nigeria does not need to give, or Africa does not need to give a rebate in extractive industries for the companies that are coming in, that we do not have to even run to go out to people, that the world will come to Africa. That the world, the next destination is Africa. So your mineral resources are things that you have to do. But you need to come together. You need to strengthen the enforcement of the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act, promote transparency through the extractive industries, transparency initiative, the compliance and digitalization of the licensing itself. Geological data and research. Very important that we invest in it. The third one is infrastructure development, which we have talked about. Infrastructure, the roads, rail power and so on. Development of mineral processing, value added and local content. Another thing I look at is the environmental and social governance, the social governance itself. It's important that we develop a mine and land reclaiming, policy, that when you are going into mining in a certain place, like what is happening in Ogoniland, we are being told again there is a spill. And so you'll be able to manage it. If we don't do it early, those investors that will come back will destroy the lives of the people as they come in. And then you need to look at financing, because it's very important. I was in Limpopo province in South Africa. And as we're traveling to Limpopo, I thought they had so many mountains. If you're traveling in that terrain, you see levels of big, big mountains. And I was told that it's not mountains. This was as a result of mining. And that's the environment. So we need to prepare ourselves. The issue of financing and, financing the transformation. The current Nigerian government, is it the kind of government that we have, or even the ones that passed? Are they people that are ready to invest, or they are looking at things that they can put in their pocket? So patriotism is very key. The quality of our citizens, whether you are seated, whether you are in the army, you are in the police, or you are in a civil servant, or you are anywhere that you are, what is your quality? How can we account for ourselves? So we need to take responsibility. So financing, I was talking with one Nigerian that is engaged in mining, and I was asking him this morning, what are the key challenges? He said equipment. Equipment. A lot of things happen to the issues of excavators and so many things. And so if you don't have equipment, you cannot do that. And so the infrastructure are things that you need to provide before a lot of people can. Have equitable state-private joint ventures and sovereign wealth. You have Chile that has copper. They also have robust regulations and value addition. But I'll just keep that. Indonesia is also having nickel. Then you have some key, things that you need to mitigate. And those are institutional independence and looking at the environmental degradation. So I think we have the capacity to be able to transform. We need further investment, not by mouth. We're just looking at oil. How much is oil going to be able to change the environment in terms of short term towards legal reforms, geodata development, and artisanal mining formalization, because who are the artisans that are going to be able to move forward? You need to invest. I think during the Buhari regime, in their first coming, there was what they had, technological transfer, short-term education, diplomas being, getting abroad, where many Nigerians were given scholarship to go out and study. And so those short-term, you can look at the infrastructure between 4 to 7 years, and also look at the long-term, which could be, 8 to 10 years in terms of export diversification, the global competitiveness, and then, call individuals. I think we need to look at the tech sector right now, but I believe in data. All my arguments are based in data, and we need to be able to look at where do we have the resources before we become a waste of generation. I think currently many of us are a waste, including myself, because we're not fighting enough for the struggle. There's the unemployment cases that you have now. Many of you in this room, you have paid school fees for your sister's children, not just yours now. They don't have jobs, and you are still giving them pocket money. If you don't give them pocket money, they'll go and do wrong things, and you be called the uncle or the auntie. And so we are in a crisis that we all need to do something about, and I hope that together we can work this together. We have the assets, and then we need to struggle with corruption. The corruption, the kind of corrupt environment, patriotism should be the key. We never fought with that. No Nigerian was speaking from the dustbin when I was a young girl. But now Nigerians are picking from the dustbin, and we are sitting as if everything is okay. It's not okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade. always spoken with so much passion for the development of our economy. And for this sector, I think one thing that resonates with me from your submission is the need for a roadmap, and not just roadmap on paper, but roadmap that will be driven by people that are patriotic. So I will just move to the next panelist, Dr. Joe Abba. I hope you are ready for us virtually. Thank you for staying put. You've been here since the beginning. So Dr. Joe Abba is the Nigerian country director for DAI. So doctor, according to the broad objective of DAI, which is to make lasting difference in the world by helping people improve their lives. My question is, what governance or institutional reforms are most critical? We have a lot of issues that have been mentioned, but which ones are most critical to ensure that the solid mineral sector becomes a real revenue driver in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me. Sorry, I couldn't
Clearly,
be.
we can hear you very good.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. I was sort of flying. I was flying for about 12 hours yesterday, and I'm currently in Zambia. Sorry, excuse me. So I hope to be able to join future events in person. You asked about the reforms that would be necessary. I think I'll bore you if I don't mention leadership. And by leadership, I mean that I got to my Zambia hotel at about at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Before I checked into the hotel and settled into my room, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I had to set my alarm for 9 a.m. this morning to be able to join this event, because my expectation was that when the pirate confraternity says 10:00 hours for an event, it will be 10:00 hours, but it wasn't. And more worryingly is that the leader of the organization himself came late to the event. Let us remind ourselves of Chinua Achebe's quote that the Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmarks of true leadership. And so if we're going to move forward, we need to be able to lead by example. Having got that out of the way, let me say that Mr. Edem Hogan sent me messages and called a few times to apologize for the late start, and I'm very grateful for that. However, those of us that attend events by our governments, which also start late, also receive similar apologies. So nothing very different there. But yes, we need to look at the way we lead our society. That's the first thing to look at. The second is to look at our laws. So we have a Land Use Act that covers issues of mining. And the 1978 Land Use Act vests all the land in our governors to allocate to hold in trust for all of us and to use for various purposes, including mining. And Section 44(3) of the Constitution vests the ownership of all minerals in the federal government. So you've got the states being vested with the land, and you've got the minerals being vested in the local government, in the federal government. You've got the Nigerian Minerals and Mining Act 2007 that reinforces federal control over minerals, says that land should be acquired in accordance with the Land Use Act, says that mining is of overriding public interest, and gives the governors the right to revoke any land that needs to be used for mining purposes. But then says that it's the federal government that gives mining licenses, but that those mining licenses, the holders of them, must obtain access to the land from the state governments. And then it goes further to say that the federal government can compulsorily acquire land for mining with compensation in the event that a state government unreasonably withholds consent. So you see quite a bit of confusion about who actually has control over the land. You know, those of you who are lawyers in the room will be aware of the legal maxim that the owner of the land owns everything above it and everything below it. But the Constitution says that the federal government owns all of the mineral resources, but the state governments have control over the land. So there's a need to sort out that structure. And that's why some of us have argued consistently that we do need a new constitution that sets out a number of things a lot more clearly than it does currently. You'll recall that a few years ago, the governor of Zamfara came to present a number of gold bars to President Buhari and a number of precious stones. I hope that those gold bars and precious stones found their ways into our central bank because it's our common wealth. But I'm not sure that we have the same control over our solid minerals as we have, say, over our oil resources. Now, if we think about the kinds of reforms that need to happen, we just need to look at what we've done with our oil resources and try and make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes. So we have an over-reliance on oil, particularly for foreign exchange purposes. We need to make sure that we don't make the same mistake with solid minerals. If you look at countries like Botswana, they've ensured that their diamonds are used for the benefits of their citizens and are used to pay for things like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. You look at countries like Norway that have oil, they have a sovereign wealth fund that says that they can only spend 10% of what's in their sovereign wealth fund every year, and they can only spend it on specific areas like health and education and infrastructure. And we need to think about how to do that with the revenue we generate from solid minerals. We need to avoid poor governance and corruption. And one of the ways to do that is by digitizing our solid minerals sector. And there's already a few initiatives in that regard. There's already a mineral resource decision support system that the Geological Agency has. There's already a Nigerian mining value chain regulations that talks about digitally capturing all of the solid minerals we have and making sure that the citizens benefit. But the oil industry is terribly opaque. We need to make sure that the solid minerals industry is not. The way we use money from oil, of course, can be a lot better. We need to make sure that we use our financial resources for solid minerals a lot better. And I've talked about the possibility of having a solid mineral sovereign fund. We already have a solid mineral development fund, but that fund is simply to support solid minerals development. What we don't have is a means of ensuring that the resources that we make from solid minerals is properly managed and is not stolen. We degraded and damaged a lot of our environment while we're prospecting for oil. We need to make sure that the same doesn't happen with our solid minerals sector. Already you have reports of people polluting rivers while prospecting for gold and other solid minerals. We have damage to water resources, drinking water resources in many places where we are prospecting for solid minerals. And we need to ensure that we have adequate legislation in place to protect citizens. we have a derivation formula for oil where people from oil-producing countries, oil-producing states, get about 13% or so derivation to help develop their communities. I'm not aware that we have a derivation formula when it comes to solid minerals. So you're likely to get quite a bit of discontent from the communities around where these minerals are developed and mined. We also need to think very carefully about developing local content. So again, you see a lot of Chinese companies, a lot of foreign companies coming to do all of this work. And they come with even their own plumbers. They come with their carpenters. They come with their electricians. They come with every artisan that you can think about. Nothing from the local community. Very different from countries like Botswana that has made it a rule that the polishing of diamonds must be done by locals. And I heard Prof asking about the number of people that use locally made Nigerian jewelry within the audience, and there weren't very many. I don't know if the room can still hear me. I think we may have lost.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can. Thank you. Okay, so the issue of local content is very, very important. We need to make sure that the people from the areas where these minerals are obtained from are able to benefit from that industry and not just bear the pollution and the noise from it. We need to make sure that we guard against unwholesome practices like child labor in terms of artisanal mining, and make sure that children are not just exploited, that they also, the children are not unjustly exploited, that they go to school and they breathe healthy air, and they grow up in safe environments. It's reported that a lot of the banditry that we hear about is actually a struggle for solid minerals. And in many places where you have this banditry, if you look very closely, you will find a solid mineral or the other. And the government needs to take this really seriously. This is not just about bandits. These are sophisticated operations, basically to drive people away from their ancestral lands because there's solid minerals beneath those lands. And it's rumored that some of that banditry is actually sponsored by foreign agents. So the government needs to look very closely at the link between so-called banditry and solid minerals. So those are some of the things that I think we need to do. We need to look at all the mistakes we've made from the way we've handled oil. We need to ensure that the resources we make from solid minerals, as an example, can be ring-fenced to support those things that government doesn't traditionally fund, like healthcare, like education, like looking after the elderly, like the kind of infrastructure that will actually generate wealth and economic benefit for citizens. I think if we do that and lead responsibly with and through personal example, we would have a chance of ensuring that we benefit more from solid minerals than we have from oil. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Dr. Thank you very much for your presentation and your submission. It's very important. I think it's key from that submission on some of these things you have mentioned. It's becoming more consistent, and I think we need to look more into it. Comrade also mentioned some of it, especially as it leads to land damages. In as much as we want to explore these opportunities, it's important to also look at the disadvantages that might come alongside with it and how we need to start planning for how to avoid those negativity that would come alongside exploring these potentials. So my next question is going to go to Dr. Aminu Ishaku. as the HOD and the pioneer HOD and the current HOD of the Geology and Mining Department of the University of Abuja, what are the biggest geological and academic insights we should be leveraging to boost solid mineral exploration and commercialization in Nigeria? What are those academic insights?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you, Prof, for this opportunity to participate in this wonderful program. Dr. Tinuke, regarding your question on the various geological leverages and the academic leverage, basically our problem in this sector is the paradoxes that we have been discussing. I just saw a slide regarding lack of food in the land of plenty. All these are paradoxes. And also the fact that as a country, we are not managing our solid minerals very well. We are living on them, and when we die, we get buried into the ground where these solid minerals are. So all these are the various paradoxes. For us too, in the academia and within the sector, is the same paradox. How can you explain the fact that we have enormous people that are knowledgeable in the sector, yet we are yet to adequately determine the exact locations and the volumes of the solid mineral resources that we have in this country? Many of the so-called reserves or deposits, let me say, or locations are mainly found not through adequate scientific process. So many of the publications that our geologists do publish regarding research on solid minerals, mineral distribution, did not translate into real industrial applications. So some of the deposits that you had, for example, in Zamfara and the rest of them, all those locations of those minerals are not being determined by scientists or by a government agency. Is by sheer coincidence of illegal miners that are working and the local community that will meet up with something, and then they now begin to know what is it, and then some people will now come and hijack it. So there is this great disconnect between geological knowledge that we have in the sector and the real industrial applications. So we need to do a lot more in geological data gathering using high-tech technology. These days, you can map using satellites. There was a time I was involved in a project to map potash deposits in the Chad Basin and also phosphate deposits in the Sokoto Basin. The company that got the contract to do the mapping is a South African-based company based in South Africa. And they simply downloaded satellite images from their office locations in South Africa, and then they processed those images and sent it to us. All that I did basically was to interpret those images and then do the geospatial analysis to now pinpoint exact locations for ground truthing. So meaning we can do a lot more in technology these days without actually going to the field with all the associated risks in that. So we have that as a challenge. And also we have a serious challenge within the academia. There is no linkage between academia and government policy. We have it all inverted. What we are practicing now is, it is the academia that is pretending to have the baseline knowledge that can inform government policy. And this is not happening. In fact, our government does not even respect the academia. This lack of respect is what you now see being translated in union arrests and all that. So if the academia are being respected very well, and if there is good relationship, working relationship between the academia and policymakers, you will have seen a lot of things happening, and that if government has any problem in terms of policy development or policy implementation, normally the best place to run to is the universities. They should be going to be asking professors in the university, help us research and find solutions to these problems. But this is not happening. However, we in the University of Abuja, we are trying to change the rules. We are now trying to say, if the industry itself is no longer comfortable with the products that we are bringing out from our universities, and they always normally say they find them highly unemployable, why can't the industry come and work with us to produce the same graduates that eventually they are going to recruit? So which is why we in the University of Abuja, we are working, we set up this department to work in partnership with the industry. One of the key stakeholders that we have invited to work with us is the Gemological Institute of Nigeria. And I must thank Professor Adesoji Adesugba for helping us to bring the term gemology into the Nigerian university landscape. We never knew anything called gemology. Ask any Nigerian graduate of geology like myself, and I must confess that without me coming together to work with the GIN, I have hardly ever come across any word called the gemology. Now you can see the extent of the problems that we have in Nigerian universities. Yes, we know geology. Yes, we have all this information. But then there is this disconnect. What we study in geology is the science of occurrence and distributions of these mineral resources everywhere in the world. So we know the geology of Africa. We learned that. We know the geology of Nigeria. And so they tell us where these mineral distributions are. And then we also come to know the various geological conditions that can allow or warrant for certain mineralization to take place. That is why without geological knowledge, you will only be digging everywhere because you don't know where to dig. So without geology, there cannot be mining. But then we stopped at that knowledge of geology. And then our graduates are always jobless and they are poor. The so-called minerals that we know, how they occur, what they look like, what their physical and chemical properties are, how we can be able to analyze those minerals under the microscopes. Yet, when we graduate, our students, our graduates become jobless because they do not know anything about gemology. They don't know how to process and market gemstones. And in geology, the aspects of geology that can be translated to be most entrepreneurial is the gemstone aspect. Yes, we know about oil and gas. We know about hydrogeology. We know a lot about mineralogy and the rest of them. But if you graduate, you cannot practice oil and gas on your own. You have to get employment in an oil and gas industry. Not to practice that on their own. That is what happens with all the remaining aspects of geology that we have. The only aspect that we can use to support what Dr. Sam Amadi has said, to support what Comrade Madam has said, tackling unemployment, youth empowerment, we can only have that taken care of within the geological sector via the aspects of gemology. That is one aspect that if we can train our graduates and let them marry their geological and scientific knowledge with practical gemological processing and marketing upon graduation, I'm sure they need very little capital. This is an aspect that you can buy a simple 5,000 naira digger if you know the geological occurrence of a particular mineral. And then you can target that particular vein. If you're lucky, if the deposit is shallow, you dig a few meters. That's what we see all these quacks are doing. They bring out gemstones and put in their pocket. And then they run away, they go and sell and make money. Even at that, they don't make the required money that they are supposed to make because there is no value addition. So if you sell your, what they call stones in their raw forms, you can hardly make any money. So the so-called diamonds that we see, that's not the way diamond occur. It's being cut and processed in that way to enhance its optical properties such that you can earn a lot more. So I think, Dr. Tunike, part of the challenges that we have is we are not really leveraging more of our geological knowledge and the academic knowledge that we are supposed to join together for us to make any productivity in that sense. And at this stage also, I want to appreciate the Honorable Minister of Solid Minerals, Dr. Dele Alake, for approving the transfer of the of the Ministry's Geology Center to the University of Abuja. And that he has done because we have reached out to the GIN to say that we want to be the first Nigerian university academic department, and in all honesty, in Africa, that offers gemology at undergraduate level. And so in this way, we are now having to develop a tripartite system whereby the academia, the industry, because we believe that with our relationship with GIM, they work directly with the industry. All these miners, they come to them for training. We can leverage that and get involved with mining companies. And then in this way, we are now approaching government, which is the driver of the policy, to form a formidable relationship such that that inverted approach of awaiting academia to feed into policy will now be reversed. Let the government tell us even what to teach in the universities. Let the industry tell us what to teach, because in the end, they are the ones that are going to absorb whatever products that we are going to bring out of the university. So I think if we can develop this together, we are going to make significant change in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is a lot of conversation and a lot of talking around our population being our strength. But the issue is we have a youth that does not have the required skill. So this is where the academia industry collaboration is very important. The Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the University of Abuja, Yakubu Gowon University now is doing a lot in that, and which this is what I think universities across the country should emulate, so that once the graduates are coming out of school, they are fit for the industry. Thank you very much, Dr. Ishaku, for that contribution. And so our second speaker, Dr. Sam Amadi, you set the tone already during your presentation, but we still want to hear from you on this panel. How do we navigate the political economic challenges that have historically limited Nigerians' ability to benefit from its solid mineral wealth? Now, I want to expand a bit on this. Every discussant on this panel has mentioned challenge that regards political issues, our policy. Dr. Joe even mentioned that the Land Use Act is conflicting each other. So now what do we do? We know we have a problem. There is a challenge. What can we do now to navigate this challenge? Because it's a major roadblock for us exploiting the opportunities we have in this solid mineral sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, let me commend Dr. Jaba for staying on. It's difficult to continue offline, so or online, we are not physically present. So, Dr. Joe, kudos for being patient and remaining engaged wherever you are. Okay. Having said that, let me say that the conversations here has been very illuminating. When I hear questions, how, so I guess it's not about the theory. It's not about what should be done. Again, just as an aside, I want to thank or commend Doc, who spoke about the collaboration. One of the problems of skilling is that oftentimes there's a mismatch between industry requirements and the skills people are getting. So the wise thing to do has always been to allow industry and next skill training. So the industry tells you what they need, because the industry needs also are dynamic. It keep changing. As the technology moves, as market function moves, the skill sets required also differ. So getting the industry to part of training is the right way to go. And I hope the industry will put in their money as well to support the faculty. How to solve the political economy problem? It's always difficult to solve. Why? Like I said, they are called political economy because even though they are multidisciplinary in nature, they involve the political process. So let's take, for example, one. Everybody has talked about the policy side of things. Policy. You have the other policy that emerge from agencies, the executive branch, through the various agencies. And of course, the third level of policy that comes from the judiciary when cases go on. But one thing to say is that starting from the oil industry, the mode of partnership between industry and states in the oil sector, the JV, joint venture, the sharing contracts have generally worked bad for the country because the industry has more knowledge, the industry manages the cost profile, and so what I've done in the oil industry is that they outsource loss for us. They declare the cost, they make the cost larger, the profit to share is smaller. So people have been canvassing around changing that, the partnership, mode of partnership. But again, the next issue is about sustainability and impact, poverty. So how do we construct a policy framework that ensures that mining, today, governments look at mining in terms of revenue it can bring, which is good. But are we looking at it from a holistic, sustainable development model? Looking at both the environmental and the community impacts. So we're moving out of, we're going to net zero. And over time, in that form. What happened to disruption in the economic ecosystem of communities? So are we going to carry that lesson into the newfound oil and solid mineral sector to begin to think proactively around how to balance interests, stakeholders, government, and community, and how to also structure interventions in a way that helps to sustain economic livelihood if and when the mining operations close out. Unlike oil and gas, some of the mining operations may have a shorter time span. So if you finish excavating and exploring or whatever, mining, then you might not have commercial interest to continue? What happens with communities? So that's one aspect. And to get this done, I think there's a question around the nature of the Nigerian state. People will make these policy discussions outside the character of the state. The Nigerian state is an extractive state, has always been from colonial period. And what that means is that the extractive states are less concerned about the impact of industry on livelihood. They are more concerned with revenue generated from extraction. And so I see that as a political economic question we have to solve. Again, the other issue I would like to, because this has been discussed, just to bring tight things together, is, okay, how do we make these sectors' economic potential very legible to policymakers? You can be talking about 1% GDP. Sector has become the definition of state failure and corruption. So I think those are the two issues I would like to.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We are gradually rounding of this discussion. But before we finally leave this discussion, I would like to take just 2 questions from the audience. Just 2 questions, and maybe I need someone to go around with the mic. But before we get to that, just 2 people, so we have to select. But before we get to that, during Dr. Amadi's presentation, he mentioned criminal governance. Before that, comrades spoke about security concerns, and some of the panelists too. We have a renowned security expert in our midst, the Pioneer Commander, Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Command, Northeast Operations Nigerian Army, Brigadier General E.A. Akibong. Even though he's not officially on the panel, we would like to bring him into this conversation. So, Brigadier General, can you kindly help us with this? There appear to be a national security dimension to unlocking Nigeria's solid mineral resources. What should the government and security agencies do in this area? And in addition to that, based on our experience in the mining sector, security agencies seems, especially when it comes to some of these minerals and gemstones, security agencies does not even know what they are guiding. They don't even know what it is. They just see the e-logs just come and they follow them to the side. So what can we do to solve this problem right from the military security agencies side?
Go talk like I'm right, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. We do recognition to Dr. Joseph Oteri, and I will toe the line of Professor Adesuba, our keynote speaker, and Professor Sam Amadi, Associate Professor. This is a foundational problem, and we have to take it from its roots. It has to deal with the main drivers of our economy. He provided statistics. In the 1950s or 60s, we had a population of 50 million. And now we have a population that is more than 200 million, conservatively speaking. So, can traditional security systems cope with the kind of vibrancy in the economy? If you say the economy is the base upon which everything rests, as our associate professor told us, a strong military, I believe that nature abhors vacuum. Our keynote speaker told us something about children and blockchain and a lot of online stuff they do. We just don't listen. First, our educational sector has been built on a foundation that you are going to school for employment purposes, not deployment purposes. Fundamentally, it's off course. And that is why you have a lot of people coming out from the mining department, and then they are looking for work with their certificates. They should be discovering new things. How come our national refinery is having issues, it's shutting down, it's opening tomorrow, we are celebrating. But those that are doing illegal bunkering, they are doing just fine with their modular refineries. What do they know that we do not know? That we think we should know. Additionally, the national security architecture needs to speak to the vibrancy of the economy. You have boys from Nigeria going to China. Commercially, they are making it good. You are talking about solid minerals. We have a greater danger. Rare earth minerals. Those things are not generated from this planet. They landed on this planet and they are in limited supply. So once detected, they are coming. And now, the traditional security architecture, there is a need to expand it. We should have whistleblowers. They will open an angle for which you can end crimes. By now, we should have bounty hunters. There are people that have a certain genetic, how do I put it, uniqueness. You are looking for Shekau. They can walk into the bush and catch Shekau and they bring him to you and they collect their bounty and they are gone.
They exist, but the formal sector does not recognize them. By now, we should have private prisons. You don't need to steal money from Nigeria and expropriate it abroad. Build prison. Build a mighty, establish a mighty, don't go and build university. Build a prison. Be the governor of the prison. The government will pay you for it. After all our prisons are expecting one of three events, either a jailbreaking, a jail breakout, or a prison riot. Why? The population is already over capacity. Prison built for 750 people is containing 3,200 now. Private prisons. We should have anti-kidnapping organizations, private military corporations with limited scale of weapons to be used. We should have private investigators, investigating firms that are, by the time you expand the security sector, then you can cope with the criminality and also put structures in place. And now, speaking to the issue of our youth, the productive force in every society is the youth, and we are lucky we have what they call a youth board. When Ukraine looked at its chances of surviving because it can't win Russia, first thing they did was, what do we do? The youth told them, drones, commercial drones, and the nation imbibed it. They had an army of drones 3 years down the line. That war started with 2,000 armored cars lined up, main battle tanks. Today, it's continuing with drones every night. There's nothing like armored car. The youth did that. And they are doing a lot of things. We talk about mineral prospecting. Is it not? I feel, sir, somehow, if the formal sector, if the economy can listen to the youths are showing us a lot of things we don't still really know. There is something I'm going to leave this audience with. It's something very profound. And I wish you would check it with your phones that is on the table. NASA professor in 1990, after they discovered what the Dogon tribe in Mali, when they gave them statistics that enabled them found the star system, Sirius B, A, B, and C. They gave them a complete mathematics, they call it the Adinkra codes, that enables you to control space-time reality. Most of you do it in terms of prayers, in terms of faith. Some of you do it in terms of affirmation, in terms of visualization. But do you know that the youths in Nigeria have already done it already? They have carried the Adinkra codes and joined it with your binary code. They are similar. And they have created Yahoo Plus. And it's something you can check in your phones. And it is there where the youth found it. We still have a science sector that is formal. And it's not even catching up. So in my belief, security goes well beyond defense. If you can define defense as steps taken to ward off actual or perceived threats, security has to do with the well-being. And as we continue to expand, because our population is not slowing anytime soon, the economy is going to be more vibrant. You are going to discover more things. You are just discovering minerals. Is it only minerals? Children today are watching TikTok in China, and they are doing what they call perpetual motion engines. Those of you that are engineers, you know what I'm talking about. They are using water. They are discovering things around them. As we speak now, a 12-year-old child, this is verifiable. Check it on your phone. Did a nuclear reactor in his father's garage, 12-year-old. This is something that took 400 scientists to do in the 1930s when they were stealing the technology in America, the Manhattan Project. A 12-year-old child did it. So do not underestimate these children. And there is a need for the formal sector to open up, and also the national security section to accept new ideas into it. With this, Nigeria will not only be the best nation on earth, it will lead the earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigadier General. Thank you for that submission. Two things resonate very well with me. For the security issues, it's important to open up to new ideas. Let's make our formal sector flexible, and also listen to the youth. I hope our leaders are going to do this. Listen to the youth. They seem to be more smarter and way ahead than the adults. Thank you very much. So to the questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tinuke. Just to continue with the discussion panel, we have opportunity for just two questions, two quick questions, and we have 5 more minutes left in the whole discussion. So how do we do this? I see your hand, DJ. Just one more person to be on the queue. Okay, so a little to the right, a little to the left. We'll take one from the back.
No, go back. Go from the back side. From here.
Yes.
No, the last one.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to commend the organization for this event because it's been an eye-opener, a very informative one for me. I think that so many questions have been raised during this discussion. And I'm sorry to say or to observe that they seem to me to be only betting the issues, speaking around the main issues. Because it is commendable that they're already raising these questions. So we need to commend the opposition for that. But it seems to me that we are studiously avoiding the main issues, the crucial issues, because the whole question of why the mineral sector, solid mineral sector, is not contributing so much to the employment of the youth. It's a question that lies outside of state policy. I think it lies more in the question of neo-colonial interests, if I may use that expression. Because the state, the Nigerian state, does not seem to be in actual position to determine what goes on in that sector. It raises the question of how much really does the so-called solid mineral sector exist in reality, and how much of it is, should I say, ephemeral? Is there a real solid mineral sector? I think it was the doctor that said people are going into university to study. No, it was the man online. I said people are going to the university to study courses related to oil and gas and all those things. Okay, yes. But that they come out of the universities after whatever they have studied in oil minerals, solid minerals, and they have no jobs. Well, where will they have jobs? Because they don't, how much, that's why I raised the question, how much does the mineral sector, solid mineral sector, exist in reality? Is there a solid mineral sector we can talk about in reality? How much we can get answers only when we begin to give answers to such questions as how is it that so many planes take off from Zamfara on a daily basis, loaded with gold, solid gold? How come so much so-called illegal mining is going on around Zamfara, with planes taking off on rough runways with gold, and nobody's doing anything about it? But the security forces are bombing illegal mining, illegal oil bunkering in this south. Nobody sees the illegal mining that is going on and all the damage they are doing to the environment in the northern states.
Okay, so we go question.
Yes.
Yes, we have your questions. So let's
Yes.
A round of applause to our DGM. I will move on to the next person. Yes, it's your opportunity. Quick 1 minute question. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. Okay, mine is just, I've been listening to the presenters. Good presentation. I want to thank all of them. But just as the last person observed, how do we mitigate? How do we even resolve the problem of external influence? Because it looks like deliberately the Western world, quote and unquote, are not interested in African development, especially Nigeria. If you check the history from the beginning, even the oil that we think we have is still in their hands. So how do we come up with solutions or policies or advice to the government how we can get ourselves out of this net of Western grip, just like Burkina Faso is doing right now? I think that is the way forward. All what we've been saying, they are good. They are internal structure, very optimistic ways to solve this problem. But I think this problem is beyond just internal issues. They also have external factors. Thank you very much. Thank you. My moderator, there is a pressing question here. It says a burning question to Comrade Ene.
Thank you so much. My name is Boni Alaneme. I'm a media practitioner and also a proud member of Abuja Chamber of Commerce. My question, because I won't be happy if I didn't ask this question to Dr. Ene. As a social justice crusader, I feel a passion, really. But my concern, which I want you to explain to me further, is how do you currently describe, how will you currently describe the strength, I mean, the moral and economic strength of Nigerian people, especially to demand and secure what I call social contracts from their leaders? Please, I need that because it's giving me a sleepless night.
Just a quick one to.
Thank you very much. Keynote speaker, you have these questions to deal with in 5 minutes.
The first question, it's very important for us to know that this is not just a talk show. I think I emphasized that when we were speaking, that we're used to talking, but not doing anything. I also wanted to use this opportunity to also showcase the, as a case study of what we are doing in this sector in collaboration with Abuja Chamber of University of Abuja, rather than just talking. So many things apart from being a lawyer, but most important, I pride myself a gemologist, and also I've practiced investment promotion for Nigeria for so many years. And one thing we always emphasize during this period is the issue of political will for change. Speak about political will all the time. Now, about the security that we see, what are we doing about it? I think Dr. Amadi did mention the issue of governance. I recall him speaking about governance, bad governance, and I recall Dr. Ene speaking, Comrade Ene, speaking about the issue of corruption. These are salient issues that are in the public domain. What we are doing here is acting as a pressure to government or to those that need to listen. It's not just a luta, but it's constant dialogue by those of us who people will listen to, constant dialogue with people who are in positions, constant dialogue, and also telling them that we can see what is happening. There's a need for change. But for there to be change that we all need in Nigeria, we must have the will, the political will of the ruling elite, or those of us who call ourselves elite, to be able to carry out that change. For me, I think for the gentleman that asked the question, we're probably in our 70s or in our late 80s. We've been asking the same questions all through our lives. But for me, it's more like we must, within our own space, do what we can. Also, not just asking the questions, especially questions where we do not have the capacity to be able to effect the change. But we can do small things in our own small strides to effect that change. And that is why I said that in this sector, we are not just talking, we are also acting. That's the relationship we have between the industry and the academia, taking it to the next level, not just talking about it, but doing things that government ought to have done. But we are taking it in our own capacity to be able to effect that change within our space. We continue to tell people in government that we can see them, we can see the movement of gold from Zamfara. We can see the people who are mining illegally. We will continue to shout until we can no longer speak, and we are also buried in the earth that we have the opportunities we can make use of. We need to change the laws. We need to develop that sector. It's not just talking. We are not here to talk, and we continue to do this. It's very important. Thank you.
Well, I want to just respond to the question around external influence. What is that question? It's gone. Okay. Okay, he has lost attention. Okay. Okay. Development is a conflict. But life is a conflict. Truly, external stakeholders, there is a theory, it might be a conspiracy, that we are underdeveloped because the major powers kept us so. Okay? Many people don't believe it or they believe, but what matters is very important. The other countries that developed had to be very strategic in engaging foreign powers. First, our leaders themselves are persons who are not nationalists, in the sense that nationalism is not about saying so. People who care and whose life are about their country. I give an example. When I was a graduate student many years ago at Harvard, I look at the class, I see that most of the people there, some of the ministers, their children are there, their wife is abroad. So I wrote an article in this day, back page. I said, who is a Nigerian? And the conclusion was that, look, most people are governing you have no skin in the game. Their children live abroad, their wives are abroad. So why would they care about collapse of hospitals and schools? They have no stake. At that time, when I was in the US, a new leader emerged in China. An American diplomat, his name is Hu. They were asking, if it was a joke, Bush was asking her NSA, then Condoleezza Rice. He says, who is who? She asked her, who? He said, who is the Chinese? Who is the Chinese? He said, who? He said, no, I'm serious. Who is? He said, who? Now, the story is that the Americans could not trust anything about him. He has not visited outside China. He has not gone to America or Europe for holidays. Our leaders pride themselves on having estates abroad, everything abroad. Some of them don't even know the villages they're governing. So we have leaders who are manipulable. They are lackeys of the West. So they don't have authenticity. If you look at what is Malaysia, Mahathir, these are leaders who are revolutionary and they love their country and they understand global politics and they have the subtlety to meander. Maybe the closest we came was Obasanjo, who understands some of the game, but who probably did not play it the way we ought to play it. So what's the lesson? You cannot develop until the capacity to construct your part and protect it. Like Obasanjo said recently, says, whatever IMF tell you or World Bank, I agree with them, but don't do it. So the way to succeed, and I agree with you, all these crises are also part of their own structure of economic growth. They need primary markets. They need markets. Just to end this my comment, last month, the US, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, spoke at an event, very brilliant speech. He says that Globalization 201, this new globalization failed because the West thought that it meant that they will go up. Then developing countries will become the dumping ground. But they're shocked how Asia moved from that. So how did Asia do it? not the way of Burkina Faso. It's not about wearing yellow beret and green beret and they're fighting, abusing America, down center, down US. That's not the way. It's the way of wearing suit, sitting with them, seeing them as enemy, keeping quiet, playing the game, but going back to do what will help you develop. You cannot develop until you have leaders who are very smart. Lee Kuan Yew, we say Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew was first class from Oxford. All the three of them were first class from Oxford. They came back with knowledge of the West and carefully led in a different direction. You don't lead a country with Hopla and noisy people and radicals with beret. You lead with people who understand the international politics and capable of playing it to achieve where they go.
Thank you very much. I want to also react to the question, the external question. I think the gentleman that asked the question, he's on phone and he can't hear me. Can you touch him, please? Yes, I needed your attention because you asked a question. The issue of leadership in everything, leadership by example. The Nigerian that is leading Nigerians is very, very important. From a very selfish perspective, then we are going. But from a selfless perspective, the likes of Aminu Kano, we have examples. The first generation, our ancestors, they played a huge role. With moral code, they led Nigeria. So who the leader is matters a lot. A leader will not compromise. I have worked I'm a development worker, and I have worked in different international agencies. But for me, it is Nigeria first. In everything that you propose, if there is no Nigeria, if you are going to compromise Nigeria, I will walk out because I'll get a job somewhere else. I want to pull that because we need to link our argument, link it with the people. My last born, he's 24 years old. He's an engineer. But I remember taking him to Alu in Port Harcourt, those who are from Rivers. I took this boy there. He was about 9 months old. Every day that we were holding our workshop at the Citizens and Leadership Training Center, my boy was stark naked because of gas flaring. That was 24 years ago. Has it changed? Is anybody from that environment that is in government that goes to Aso Rock to go and meet? What about the people? In my study of international law and diplomacy, at one point I studied the master's in international law and diplomacy. There is what you call for the extractive industries, they have what they call slush funds. I call it flush funds because they have the companies that are coming have enough money to make sure that when there is any problem at all in the community, they are able to close the mouth of the chiefs and the kings and they cause trouble within them. It's still happening today. And so what is going on has to do with the leadership of the people and people who are leading. And so the external influence continues. It's a warning that in 450 locations, you have 40 distinctive minerals, solid minerals. The world will come to Nigeria. How are we going to handle? The gas is still flaring there. In other climes, that gas flaring, if you're able to curtail it, it will be more useful. And so there is a lot. Our refineries, 4 huge refineries with thousands of workers, Nigerian workers. Now you have the youth balls. We take, crude out and then we go and refine it and bring it to Nigeria. And you have the local people who are refining and you are going after them. And so what that means is that so many of our young people, both skilled and unskilled labor that we should have pushed into the employment, that are willing to work at the different levels, they are not there. Now the social contract, which my brother talked about. When I was speaking earlier, I said, okay, the confraternity, where is your space in the civil society? When we call for protest, so you have leaders, okay, they are flying out gold from Zamfara. We hear them. We see who is that? We heard during the initial time of Boko Haram, we heard that people were flying their aircraft into the Nigerian space. Who protected those ones? They fly into the Nigerian space. And then we endanger our military, our police force. We endanger them because we are not giving them equipment. I'm sure you saw that when it started. That Nigerian soldiers that go to free, even the corridor in Somaliland for American soldiers were being chased because they had no weapon. And so protection. So your leaders that you are talking about, you are watching your leaders. It's with you and I, we are here. President, Bola Tinubu bought yacht with our money. Where is there water in Abuja? His sitting environment is, is Abuja, isn't it? Where is there water here? And he bought a yacht. The yacht is there. What is the use? We are buying planes. The poverty of the mind and poverty of the head is so much. How do we secure active citizenship? What are you doing in your environment, the small circle that you are? Because in every environment where there are so many corrupt people, there are still Nigerians that are not corrupt, even in the civil service. I want to tell you that. And people are working really hard. Can we see how we can do more? You need to define the quality of the citizen, because in our elections, we saw what happened during the elections. How many Nigerians came out? When we call for protests, how many people are willing to come out? Because you are in your comfort zone, or maybe you are too tired, or maybe there is a special breed of civil society advocates that are out there. Let them go. I was in the airport and the flight was delayed. And one guy, after his flight was called, he came to me. He said, "Madam, thank you for what you do for Nigeria. Please, can you add this particular issue as part of your advocacy? Who is a Nigerian? Who will be those who are struggling?" What we have had is we had the NSAS that came in. The young people couldn't take it anymore. Nigeria is sitting on a time bomb. But we can take it seriously. For the young people, if we cannot protect them, we will all be consumed. But we have a chance. If Nigeria can do something immediately in this environment, my nephew, I took him through school, from primary school to the university. He's a geologist. He's now a pastor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade NLB. That's quite food for thought. And I'm sure that it speaks real of the essence of this feast of Barracuda.
So Joe Abba, for just 1 minute, closing remarks, then all the panelists can stand up for a picture while we leave. So Doctor, you have the floor for a closing remarks, just 1 minute.
Oh, thank you very much. Just to say that my brother Sam and my sister Ene have covered the issues quite admirably. I had the privilege of working in 10 Downing Street when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, and also to lead public service reforms at federal level in Nigeria between 2013 and 2017. And people ask me what is the main difference between the UK public service and the Nigerian one. And I said there are only two differences that I could see. All of the bureaucracy, believe it or not, is very, very similar, but two major differences. One is that the public servants in the UK work with patriotism. And I think, both Ene and Sam talked about that. The second is that it is the brightest and the best that join the public service. That is the opposite in Nigeria. Those are the two key differences. And I think that if we're going to change that, we need to have a proper dialogue about the kind of country we want and what we are each individually and collectively willing to do to get that kind of country that we want. The National Assembly is not going to do it. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas. The previous president, he emphasized all the cleavages that hold Nigeria together. Previous presidents had always tried to find the things that hold us together, but the previous president made sure that every single cleavage, whether it's religion or ethnicity, was emphasized. The current president has done something similar to win the elections. You talk to young Nigerians today, the level of tribalism is incredible. And I think you'll get to a position where we do need to have a conversation about the kind of country we want and what we're each willing to do to get it. My only hope is that we don't have widespread bloodshed before that happens, and that we can pull back from the brink and have a sensible discussion about the kind of country we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joaba. A wonderful round of applause to him. At this point, I want to call on the NASCAPON and all our discussants to file up for a group photo. NASCAPON, Area Mate 9, Mr. Obinna, Stera Sahara Deg, Stera ZUMA Deg, and the coordinator of CVI. Please join the group photograph. Dr. Joaba, you're meant to be part of the photograph, but don't worry, we'll Photoshop you into the. Please, can we have our camera? Can the general join them in this?
Which one wrong?
Dr. Sam, I know you want to leave, but I crave your indulgence just to receive a small token of appreciation. On this note, I want to call on the NASCAPON to please present the plaque to Dr. Sam Amadi. Please, can we have Dr. Sam Amadi's? Okay, this is for Sam Amadi. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, we are still in this event. Please, can we have some
Sam Amadi is like one of us, and I'm presenting of the NAS.
Thank you. I'm glad to receive this one. I'm a member of this group.
Next one is to Dr. Tinuke Temitope.
Dr. Tinuke, on behalf of NAS, this is presented for your steadfast contribution.
That's brilliant. The next is our keynote speaker, Professor Adesoba.
Queen Master, this is socially presented to you. I won't call you, but I know what I call you, Queen Master.
The next presentation will be taken by Area 9, Mr. Obina, and will be presenting to Comrade Ene Obi. Comrade Ene Obi's flag. Please accept this as a token of our appreciation for always answering us when we call you. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you. The next presentation will be made by Sahara Chike Onya, and he'll be presenting to Dr. Aminu Ishiaku. Dr. Aminu Ishiaku.
On behalf of the National Association of CDOCs, we say thank you. We present this to you. Thank you.
The next one will be taken by the ZUMA deck, Mr. Linus Igwe, and it's to the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Can we have the representative of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry to receive this award? On behalf of thank you. On behalf of the various people, I hereby present this plaque excellent today. Thank you very much. That brings to a close on that session. Please, take your seat. We are still on. We've just finished that aspect of the event. We will move on quickly to the closing remarks, and this will be taken by the ZUMA deck. But just before that, I just want to quickly recognize, please, can we have some quietness? Can we have some quietness, please? I'm sure you recognize that we have some people online, and one of such is Tim Akariva, who is a Ops NAS Capone, that is a former NAS Capone. Please, a round of applause for Tim. He's been very patient and has been with us in this event throughout. We also want to recognize Uzoma. We want to recognize Femi Ige. They've been all online throughout. And also a quick recognition of Kingsley Ashineru and Professor Okorocha. We also would like to specially recognize some other NAS members who are here, very senior members. Asi David is a NAS Ombuds Pirate. Thank you very much for being with us. We also want to recognize Mr. Amechi Ebiekwe. Mr. Amechi Ebiekwe is the former director of Satellite Town Development Department. Do we still have him with us? We also quickly want to recognize Barrister Efium Tonire Ene. Okay, we also would like to recognize Paquins Peter Isa Oboni. Please, a round of applause for Paquins. So at this point, I want to now crave the indulgence of Mr. Linus to please give us the closing remarks. Thank you.
Ahoy Nastapon, ahoy area mate, area 9, ahoy tsunamis, DJMs, TBSs, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to use this opportunity to, on behalf of ZUMA and Sahara Deck, to extend my sincere appreciation to the NASCAPON for us giving an approval for this event to hold, and secondly, providing the enabling environment. I also want to thank the area mate AF9, Mr. Obin Adonze, for making sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. Area mate AM9 is a man that will give you work and he will not sleep until you deliver. He will follow you with phone calls, pursue you until our area. I'll be like you when I grow up. I also want to thank the chairman of the committees, FOB committee, ZUMA Sahara FOB committee, and the members of that committee for a job well done. They say the reward for good work, hard work is more work. This committee expects more work. I want to also thank our speakers, the keynote speaker and the other speakers for a job well done, doing justice to the topic of today. And I say many thanks to all of you. To all the CDOCs that are present, I say a big ahoy to all of you. Those who did not attend, you miss. I also want to appreciate our friends and families who attended this important event. And finally, I say many thanks and safe travels as you return home in Jesus' name. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Linus Igwe, Stera Zumadek. Thank you indeed to our keynote speaker and all the other speakers. Ahoy, Sea Dogs. Ahoy, Sea Dogs. Yeah, so we've come to a wrap up in this event. At this point, we would like to sign off, but just to remind you, the refreshment will be ongoing, and feel free to network as much as possible. Ahoy, Sea Dogs, one more thing, we have a post-event evaluation that would like everybody to participate. So just scan the barcode on the screen and you have a of our